absolutely no intention of underestimating the Medicine Emperor when they started fighting this time, which put significant pressure on the Medicine Emperor. Swoosh! The bronze mace in the Medicine Emperor's hand continuously emitted cyan light. The original bronze mace was now completely wrapped in cyan flames. This weapon was extremely powerful, even if the Medicine Emperor casually swung it. The resulting attack was enough to threaten an ordinary saint rank. An Emperor rank expert like Gu Qijue might still be injured if hit head-on. Kai la la, as the Medicine Emperor brandished the bronze mace, continuously launching relentless attacks toward Gu Qijue. The lightning in Gu Qijue's hand continuously blasted toward the Medicine Emperor. HMPH, the Medicine Emperor snorted coldly, and the killing intent in his heart continuously condensed at this moment. After the probing just now, he already had a general understanding of Gu Qijue's strength. Gu Qijue's combat experience was very rich. His movements were extremely agile, and he controlled the power of thunder, possessing exceptionally fierce killing power. However, Gu Qijue seemed to lack some foundation and didn't possess a definitive finishing move. Just now, he offered a few false openings, wanting to test Gu Qijue's trump card. Although Gu Qijue seized the opening, he still attacked him using terrifying thunder and did not reveal any trump card. From this, the Medicine Emperor basically concluded that Gu Qijue must lack such earth-shattering, terrifying methods. Gu Qijue didn't know what the Medicine Emperor was thinking, but he knew that the Medicine Emperor had been probing him just now. While the Medicine Emperor was probing him, he was also probing the Medicine Emperor. He could basically conclude that the Medicine Emperor was not as formidable as imagined. The opponent's most powerful method was the Azure Dawn Heavenly Divine Fire. Without the Azure Dawn Heavenly Divine Fire, the Medicine Emperor's combat power would immediately be greatly reduced. The Medicine Emperor might originate from the alchemist profession, and his strength would significantly drop after separating from the Divine Fire, since the initial probing had ended. Then, naturally, both sides would start getting serious. Kai la la, rumble, Gu Qijue's entire body became terrifying and shocking at this moment. Endless thunder continuously erupted from him, his entire being seemed to be bathing in a thunder pool. Rumble, under the astonished gaze of the Medicine Emperor, Jai Yinyu and others, the thunder surrounding Gu Qijue was rapidly undergoing incredible changes. Before long, the sky-filling thunder actually began continuously condensing on Gu Qijue's body. After advancing to the imperial rank, Gu Qijue clearly gained a higher level of understanding and application of thunder power, seeing scenery from a higher vantage point. In an extremely short period, countless bolts of thunder directly condensed on his body, forming a set of thunder armor. Not only that, but a large amount of thunder continued to emerge at this moment. This multitude of thunder continuously condensed in Gu Qijue's hand this time, then visibly transformed into a sharp and domineering thunder battle saber. This scene naturally caused the Medicine Emperor to frown deeply. Through the previous probing, he had thought he had a sufficient understanding of Gu Qijue. Only now did he realize that Gu Qijue's fierce attacks earlier were merely mutual probing. At this moment, Gu Qijue finally brought out some real skill and started getting serious with him. Whoosh! The Medicine Emperor took a deep breath. The bronze mace formed by the cyan divine fire in his hand remerged into the divine fire at this time. Many people might have never seen the Medicine Emperor's fighting style before. The Medicine Emperor continuously formed hand seals. Before long, the Azure Dawn Heavenly Divine Fire, under the dumbfounded gazes of the crowd, transformed into a pill furnace blazing with fierce flames. With a change in the Medicine Emperor's thoughts, he actually used the pill furnace as a weapon, controlling it to smash directly toward Gu Qijue. Gu Qijue didn't know if anyone else among the Infinite Group allied forces had seen this fighting style, but it was his first time. This was like someone getting into a conflict in an internet cafe before the apocalypse, and using a computer monitor as a weapon. While he was thinking that the Medicine Emperor's fighting style was somewhat novel and unique, the Medicine Emperor's pill furnace had already forcefully suppressed him with the momentum of Mount Tai crashing down. Gu Qijue was naturally completely fearless, meeting the attack head-on and facing its sharp edge. Rumble, Kai la la, amidst the flashing thunder filling the sky, he directly raised the thunder battle saber and violently swung the blade, tearing through the air. This strike was powerful, heavy and incomparably fierce. With a single slash, heaven and earth changed color, and massive cracks continuously appeared in space, clearly unable to withstand the force. Under the gaze of Lai Kongwu, Xing Bao, Silver Wing, Moon Pupil, Jai Tianyu, and others, Gu Qijue's world-shattering saber strike fiercely collided with the Medicine Emperor's pill furnace. Clang, a clear sound, like the sudden collision of a massive bell, rang out, and the terrifying sonic boom was deafening. Suddenly, it seemed as if the sky had collapsed and the earth had sunk, space fractured, mountains and rivers shattered, and the sun and moon reversed. A powerful energy shockwave swept madly outward in all directions from the center of their collision. Several Saint-rank experts fighting in midair were directly staggered by the impact. On the battlefield below, the affected combat units from both sides were instantly shaken into a mist of blood or scattered broken parts. The might of the Imperial rank was terrifying and incomparably domineering. Seeing this, the Medicine Emperor shot up into the sky, straight toward the 9 heavens. Gu Qijue was naturally completely fearless, also ascending straight to the 9 heavens to fight in the sky. The main reason the two moved the battlefield above the 9 heavens was the fear of shaking the combat units of both sides to death. After the two ascended to fight, the Infinite Group Allied Forces and the Cultivator Army of Medicine King Valley were greatly relieved. Although the heavens and earth continued to shake, they clearly no longer had to worry about being collateral damage. 101. Pursuing the fleeing enemy and driving them into Medicine King Valley, the two figures high above the 9 heavens were already somewhat indistinct at this point. However, the heavens and earth continued to shake and tremble. Gu Qijue looked up and could only see a ball of lightning and a ball of green flame fiercely battling. She didn't know how the battle was progressing. She could only silently pray that no Black Swan event would occur, causing Gu Qijue to be unexpectedly injured. Even if Gu Qijue couldn't quickly determine a winner against the Medicine Emperor, as long as he could hold him back, it would be advantageous for them. The Infinite Group's regular combat units had gradually gained the upper hand at this moment. Two of the battle formations formed by the Medicine King Valley Cultivator Army had already been breached. As time passed, more and more battle formations would continue to be breached. The longer it dragged on, the greater the Infinite Group Allied Forces' chances of winning. The Saint-rank battlefield also saw new developments. Under her continuous fierce fighting, a Saint-rank cultivator from Medicine King Valley had been severely wounded by her in their recent clash. Although the opponent hadn't completely perished, their combat strength was greatly diminished, and they were even unable to participate in the Saint-rank battlefield. This meant that on the Saint-rank battlefield, the Infinite Group Allied Forces were currently also in a superior position. The Infinite Group Allied Forces were currently full of momentum. Led by Gu Qijue, Lai Kangwu, and Star Source, they continuously charged forward ferociously. Above the 9 heavens, the Medicine Emperor and Gu Qijue had not yet determined a victor, but with his cunning, he had already discovered an unfavorable trend. His majestic voice soon swept across the entire world. Medicine King Valley cultivators form battle formations and retreat in an orderly fashion. Cultivators unable to form battle formations withdraw first. This old man will cover your retreat. After the Medicine Emperor gave the order, the many cultivators of Medicine King Valley collectively breathed a sigh of relief. A large number of cultivators quickly sprang into action at this moment. These cultivators quickly reorganized into battle formations with incredibly astonishing defensive capabilities. Other cultivators who couldn't form battle formations had already followed the Medicine Emperor's command and rapidly evacuated this battlefield. Upon seeing this scene, Gu Qijue, without waiting for Gu Qijue's command, issued her own order: "Stop them, don't let them escape. Eliminate all enemy combat units." As her order was transmitted, the Infinite Group Allied Forces also swiftly took action. Many combat units of the Infinite Group Allied Forces launched extremely fierce charges towards the Medicine King Valley Cultivator Army. A relatively rare scene also appeared on the battlefield. The original vast battlefield began to be segmented at this time. Some of the Infinite Group Allied Forces combat units were clashing with Medicine King Valley's battle formations. Many other Infinite Group Allied Forces combat units began to pursue the fleeing Medicine King Valley cultivators. The Infinite Group Allied Forces continuously pushed forward, while the Medicine King Valley Cultivator Army retreated in an orderly fashion. Medicine King Valley's formidable strength was once again fully displayed at this moment. When the Great Yan dynasty encountered such a situation, Gu Qijue directly ordered them to be pursued and annihilated. The Great Yan dynasty, a major power in the Tianheng domain, suffered a crushing defeat, with only a portion of the Great Yan imperial family's powerhouses successfully escaping. All other powerhouses of the Great Yan dynasty were slain on the battlefield. Medicine King Valley was different. As one of the top major powers in the Tianheng domain, they not only had an imperial rank old ancestor overseeing them, but they could also retreat in an orderly fashion. If they had fled in a disorderly panic, they would naturally have been relentlessly pursued by the Infinite Group allied forces. Gu Qijue, seeing that the Medicine King Valley cultivator army could retreat in an orderly manner, felt a renewed sense of importance for Medicine King Valley in his heart. Of course, Medicine King Valley was retreating after all, indicating they were at a disadvantage. During the retreat, they still paid a price. In the previous head-on battle on the battlefield, Medicine King Valley's 10 million cultivator army suffered only about 2/10 casualties. On the escape route, the battle time was not very long, but they still quickly incurred nearly 1/10 casualties. This made the already high-spirited Infinite Group allied forces even more morale-filled at this moment. The Infinite Group allied forces originally had 8.5 million combat units. After a fierce battle, their casualties were also in the millions. However, during the subsequent pursuit, the growth trend of the Infinite Group allied forces casualties had significantly slowed down. Because the cultivators of Medicine King Valley, at this moment, had no desire to fight and only wanted to retreat. In this process, as long as one's strength wasn't too weak and luck wasn't too bad, one would almost certainly not die on the battlefield. During the pursuit, the Infinite Group allied forces' technological weapons once again shone brightly. Various technological weapons of the Infinite Group allied forces had very long ranges. Not only that, these technological weapons did not require the Infinite Group's combat units to provide energy. Like the various magic treasures and other treasures of the Medicine King Valley cultivator army. When used, they required the user to provide spiritual power to the magic treasure. The Infinite Group allied forces' technological weapons were not like this at all. Technological weapons like portable missiles, needless to say, fired missiles, not their own energy. For laser weapons or other energy weapons, they consumed the weapon's own energy, not the energy of the Infinite Group allied forces. This battle undoubtedly lasted a very long time. Rather than saying it was one battle, it was 3 battles. In the beginning, both sides set up their formations outside the Medicine King Valley's sphere of influence. In this stage, both sides fought a positional battle, setting up formations and clashing head-on. The second battle was a pursuit battle. After the Medicine King Valley cultivator army found themselves at a disadvantage, they began an orderly retreat. Although it was an orderly retreat, the fighting between the two sides never stopped. In this process, the Medicine King Valley cultivator army paid an extremely heavy price. As the Medicine King Valley cultivator army retreated all the way and gradually entered the Medicine King Valley's sphere of influence, the third battle also began. Unlike the initial positional battle and the later pursuit battle, this battle was a siege for the Infinite Group allied forces. After entering their own territory, the Medicine King Valley cultivators began to utilize various advantages to fight on home ground. Various formations, battle beasts, and treasures were all brought out by the Medicine King Valley cultivators at this time. Unlike the overwhelming success of the pursuit battle, upon entering the siege phase, the Infinite Group allied forces combat units encountered enormous resistance. However, the troops came with the momentum of a great victory, and at this point, the Medicine King Valley cultivator army simply couldn't continue to resist. Formation after formation was continuously destroyed. One immortal city after another, of varying sizes, was also conquered consecutively. The Medicine King Valley cultivator army had no choice but to retreat again and again. One more chapter. I'm writing it now. 102. The profound heritage of Medicine King Valley. The territory ruled by Medicine King Valley is larger than the territory ruled by the Great Yan dynasty. On this vast land, numerous majestic and colossal cities stand tall. The closer one gets to the Medicine King Valley sect headquarters, the larger the scale of these cities becomes. The number and strength of Medicine King Valley cultivators are also continuously increasing. Compared to the Great Yan dynasty, Medicine King Valley is undoubtedly a tough nut to crack. When the Infinite Group attacked the Great Yan dynasty, it went very smoothly, directly sweeping through them and conquering the land in a single battle. When the Infinite Group allied forces attacked Medicine King Valley, it was actually also very smooth. On the battlefield of the conventional forces of both sides, the Infinite Group allied forces were invincible, accumulating over 3 million enemy kills. On the Saint Rank battlefield, Tianyue Group CEO Jia Yinyu first severely injured a Saint Rank. and then killed this saint rank during the pursuit, achieving a complete victory as well. On the Imperial rank battlefield, Gu Qijue did not suffer any damage. The Medicine Emperor was only able to escape because Gu Qijue held back. The Infinite Group allied forces achieved a complete victory in every battle on every battlefield. However, Medicine King Valley's foundation was simply too deep. Even fighting until this point, Medicine King Valley had not been completely conquered. At this moment, Gu Qijue and Gu Qijue could understand why other groups attempting to attack forces comparable in strength to Medicine King Valley had suffered setbacks. Although Tianheng Domain lacks technological weapons, their foundation is extremely powerful. Under these circumstances, wanting a quick decisive battle and conquering the territory in a single fight is extremely difficult. After conquering Tianlu City, one of the 5 major cities within Medicine King Valley's territory, Gu Qijue and Gu Qijue ordered a temporary rest and reorganization. Gu Qijue and Gu Qijue also met in the City Lord's Great Hall of Tianlu City. After the two met, Gu Qijue asked with great concern, "You weren't injured during the previous great battle with the Medicine Emperor, were you?" She could not discern Gu Qijue's true condition, nor did she know exactly how he was doing at the moment. Gu Qijue shook his head. "CEO Gu, you underestimate me. Did you truly think that just because I fought him for so long? We were evenly matched, I merely spared his life. There must be stronger old ancestors within Medicine King Valley, and I plan to set a trap for them then." Gu Qijue smiled. "I wasn't underestimating your excellency Xingju. I was just concerned about you." As she spoke, Gu Qijue walked toward her. Gu Qijue was slightly startled, not understanding what Gu Qijue was about to do, but she quickly found out. Because after Gu Qijue walked over, he immediately picked her up and kissed her. Gu Qijue couldn't help but blush and said, "You scoundrel. You really didn't use your full strength. Now you actually have the energy left to fight me again." Of course, she already knew what Gu Qijue intended to do. However, unlike Gu Qijue, she was genuinely exhausted. Don't look at how easily Gu Qijue killed saint ranks, as if slaughtering chickens. In front of Gu Qijue, those saint ranks were all reduced to utterly vulnerable trash. In reality, the strength of those many saint rank beings was still considerable. It was only because Gu Qijue's strength was even more formidable and terrifying that he could crush the other saint ranks with overwhelming force. If normal saint ranks fought, they would often have to expend great effort, like Gu Qijue did, to eliminate a single saint rank combatant. After holding Gu Qijue in his arms, Gu Qijue asked, "What is the situation on the other battlefields?" He was not in a hurry to start his offensive against Gu Qijue. Anyway, Gu Qijue was in his arms and couldn't escape. Gu Qijue thought for a moment, then spoke with a breath like orchids. "The situation on the other battlefields is generally very good. At the beginning of the war, Medicine King Valley had an army of 10 million cultivators. By the time we temporarily ceased fighting for rest and reorganization, nearly 4 million of Medicine King Valley's cultivator army had been eliminated. The Infinite Group allied forces had 8.5 million troops before the war began. Fighting until now, the losses are between 1.5 million and 2 million. Furthermore, of these losses totaling less than 2 million, the cultivator army from the Great Yan dynasty accounted for about 500,000. In other words, if we only count our Tianyue group and the Infinite Group's direct combat forces, the losses are only a little over 1 million. Gu Qijue understood why Gu Qijue made this distinction, because the direct combat forces of the Infinite Group and Tianyue Group are elites, while the cultivators from the Great Yan dynasty who defected to the Infinite Group do not have very strong combat capabilities. Of course, if their combat capabilities were strong enough, they wouldn't have collapsed instantly when faced with the Infinite Group back then, nor would the Great Yan dynasty have been conquered by the Infinite Group combat forces in a single battle. After hearing Gu Qijue describe the situation, Gu Qijue fell into contemplation. According to this loss ratio, the Infinite Group allied forces can continue fighting. In the Infinite Group headquarters base, war machines can be continuously manufactured. If resources are sufficient, the Infinite Group allied forces can use war machines to continuously deplete the enemy's effective strength. Seeing Gu Qijue thinking, Gu Qijue did not interrupt him. Of course, Gu Qijue wouldn't keep thinking about problems. After all, when holding a peerless beauty like Gu Qijue in his arms, precious time shouldn't be spent on other things. Thinking of this, Gu Qijue's massive energy instantly enveloped the entire City Lord's mansion Great Hall. Naturally, the outside world could no longer know anything about what was happening inside the City Lord's mansion Great Hall. Fortunately, This time, Lai Kongwu was not waiting outside the Great Hall. Otherwise, Lai Kongwu would once again find that the ground seemed to be continuously shaking. While Gu Qijue and Jai Yinyu began to balance work and rest, the Medicine King Valley side was shrouded in gloom and misery. The gloom on the Medicine Emperor's face was so dark that it seemed water could drip from it. The expressions of the other Medicine King Valley high-ranking officials and most of the remaining powerful experts were just as grim as the Medicine Emperors. They had dominated this region for countless years and had never encountered such a tricky opponent as the Infinite Group Allied Forces. Not long ago, the great battle between Medicine King Valley's 10 million cultivator army and the Infinite Group Allied Forces ended with the devastating defeat of the Medicine King Valley cultivator army. On the Medicine King Valley side, the numerous cultivators were currently listless, as if mourning the death of their parents, with morale plummeting to rock bottom. There was nothing they could do, after continuous devastating defeats. Not only the other cultivators, but even these powerful experts felt severely demoralized. The Medicine Emperor summoned everyone to the Medicine King Valley Deliberation Hall, certainly not just to look at their mournful faces. After pondering for a moment, the Medicine Emperor spoke. The current situation is extremely critical. Gentlemen, does anyone have a strategy to defeat the enemy, or at least to contend with the Infinite Group's allied forces? After the Medicine Emperor asked, no one spoke up. It was obvious that none of them had a good strategy to defeat the enemy. Forget a good strategy to defeat the enemy, faced with a unique foe like the Infinite Group Allied Forces. They had absolutely no countermeasure. Unless the Infinite Group Allied Forces' technological weapons could be neutralized, they would always be at a disadvantage against them. They need to consume spiritual energy to use spirit arts, and they also need to consume spiritual energy to use magic treasures. The Infinite Group Allied Forces' technological weapons, however, do not require them to provide energy themselves. This single point gives them an unbelievably huge advantage. Finished writing, calling it a day, requesting a monthly ticket, 103, the highest level of energy. Blood God Crystal. As everyone fell silent, Grand Elder Ran, the Grand Elder of Medicine King Valley, slowly spoke. Medicine King Valley is now at a critical juncture between life and death. Can we please invite Old Medicine Emperor out, and the other Grand Elders? Old Medicine Emperor is the master of the current Medicine Emperor. Strictly speaking, Old Medicine Emperor is currently in a mysterious state of being a living dead. Before his natural lifespan ended, Old Medicine Emperor refined himself into a special living dead puppet. In this state, Old Medicine Emperor could retain his consciousness, while his living dead physical body slowly improved its strength in the medicine spring, hoping to advance further one day. The other Grand Elders soaking in the medicine spring were basically in the same situation. After Grand Elder Ran spoke, many high-ranking officials of Medicine King Valley looked at the Medicine Emperor. Now that the situation was urgent, it seemed necessary to invite Old Medicine Emperor out. Under everyone's gaze, the Medicine Emperor nodded slightly. This is the only way. Upon hearing this, Grand Elder Ran breathed a sigh of relief. The other high-ranking officials of Medicine King Valley also breathed a sigh of relief. If Old Medicine Emperor and the other Grand Elders in the Medicine Spring come out, these invading villains will surely be turned to dust. Gu Qijue didn't know that Medicine King Valley had such a powerful trump card. At this moment, he was examining the special resources sent by Lai Kongwu. This was a resource similar to blood crystal stones, but its energy fluctuations were dozens to hundreds of times stronger than blood crystal stones. Infinite Group's technological weapons could not extract energy from it. Lai Kongwu didn't know how to use these special crystals, so he brought them to Gu Qijue for advice. Beside Gu Qijue, Jai Yinyu glanced at it and said, "These are blood god crystal, containing enormous energy. But unfortunately, we can't use them, and neither can the natives of Tianheng Domain." Gu Qijue heard this and couldn't help but ask in confusion, why can't the natives of Tianheng Domain use them either? He could understand why they couldn't use them. Many things in Tianheng Domain were unusable by them, or rather, not directly usable. Because these items were composed of universe rules from a different system than theirs, they needed certain transformations to be used. Jai Yinyu said with a slight movement in her eyes, "According to what I've learned, absorbing and refining blood god crystal requires a special medium as a bridge." Other groups also obtained blood god crystal when attacking Tianheng Domain, but most of them could only stare blankly at them. They tried many methods, even sending many samples to the Alliance base for research, but so far, there is still no way to extract the energy contained in blood god crystal. After Jai Yinyu finished speaking, Gu Qijue grabbed a piece of blood god crystal. He could feel the extremely surging and terrifying power contained within the blood god crystal. But as Jai Yinyu said, the energy in the blood god crystal seemed to require a special medium to be extracted. He tried for a moment, but still couldn't extract the energy from the blood god crystal. Just as Gu Qijue was about to give up, the 9 dragon pearls he obtained from the 9 ancestors of the blood dragons suddenly trembled slightly. At the same time, Jai Yinyu and Lai Kangwu also watched in shock as Gu Qijue actually extracted a trace of energy from the blood god crystal. Initially, he only extracted a trace. After a few breaths, the energy he extracted from the blood god crystal significantly increased. Jai Yinyu's mouth hung open, completely stunned. She knew relatively more about blood god crystal, and from the latest intelligence she had, this was a top-tier resource that was temporarily unusable. Lai Kangwu's eyes were as wide as brass bells in shock. He had previously had people try various methods to utilize this top-tier resource, blood god crystal, but all failed. Even he thought this should be a resource that could be seen but not used. He never expected that Gu Qijue was heaven-defying to the extreme, actually able to extract energy from the blood god crystal. Gu Qijue was also ecstatic at this moment. He didn't know what blood god crystal was, but he was very sure that it was an incredibly high level, top-tier resource. The energy in the blood god crystal was extremely pure, even purer than his own imperial rank energy. He couldn't directly absorb and refine the energy in the blood god crystal. He needed the dragon pearls left by the 9 ancestors of the blood dragon to act as a bridge for conversion. The 9 ancestors of the blood dragon and the blood god crystal seemed to have some connection. Their powers were somewhat of the same origin. Otherwise, the dragon pearls left by the 9 ancestors of the blood dragon would not have been able to act as a bridge. Jai Yinyu watched Gu Qijue absorb the energy from the blood god crystal with great envy, and she asked with immense curiosity, "How does it feel?" Gu Qijue nodded solemnly. "This is a supreme treasure, and it's the supreme treasure among supreme treasures. My physical body and my entire body's energy are continuously being tempered and strengthened by the high-purity energy in the blood god crystal. If one continues to cultivate and improve with blood god crystal, any race of beings could probably sweep away those of the same rank and easily achieve heaven-defying feats against higher realms." Jai Yinyu was already very envious, and after hearing Gu Qijue, she wanted to cultivate with blood god crystal even more. Not only her, but Lai Kangwu also desperately wanted to cultivate with blood god crystal. Jai Yinyu quickly asked, "How can one cultivate with blood god crystal?" Gu Qijue smiled and said, "Currently, only I should be able to cultivate with blood god crystal. I have a part of my power that is of the same origin as the blood god crystal." Hearing him say this, Jai Yinyu felt a bit regretful. Lai Kangwu was also the same. He coveted the blood god crystal immensely, but unfortunately, he couldn't use it. The blood god crystal receiving such high praise from Gu Qijue meant it was definitely not an ordinary treasure. Gu Qijue quickly said to Jai Yinyu and Lai Kangwu, "Don't leak the fact that I can extract blood god crystal energy. I might have a way to solve your problem of not being able to use blood god crystal later. Also, acquire blood god crystal from all groups and all forces." The message released to the outside is that Infinite Group wants to research how to use blood god crystal, hence the need for a large quantity of blood god crystal. Hearing this, Jai Yinyu understood that Gu Qijue was about to make a huge profit again. Other groups, including the natives of Tianheng Domain, couldn't use this top-tier resource. Yet the reserves of this item in Tianheng Domain were considerable, so Gu Qijue could obviously acquire a lot of blood god crystal at a dirt cheap price. Upon hearing Gu Qijue's command, Lai Kangwu immediately bowed and saluted. "Understood, your subordinate will go and handle it now." Gu Qijue had indeed stumbled upon a huge fortune this time. The blood god crystal reserves were abundant, and no one else could use them. Since Infinite Group was willing to pay to acquire them, many people would naturally be willing to sell blood god crystal to Infinite Group. All the blood god crystal acquired by Lai Kangwu were naturally sent to Gu Qijue. Gu Qijue, who already possessed terrifying combat power, immediately reached a higher level after being boosted and strengthened by the blood god crystal. 104. Living Dead, Old Medicine King Medicine Spring is the forbidden land of Medicine King Valley, and it is usually closed. Even the Medicine Emperor and others could not casually enter the Medicine Spring restricted area. They waited in the Medicine Spring restricted area for 3 days before the Medicine Spring restricted area slowly opened. When the medicine spring restricted area opened, everyone naturally breathed a sigh of relief. In the medicine spring, there was no actual spring water, only an extremely dense nine-colored spiritual qi filling it. This nine-colored spiritual qi was refined from countless supreme treasures. Its energy purity and intensity could already be compared to the blood god crystal in Gu Qijue's hands. The difference was that the blood god crystal could only be used by Gu Qijue. The almost liquefied nine-colored spiritual qi in the medicine spring, however, could be used by anyone. After the medicine emperor and others arrived here, even without cultivating, just breathing in a few breaths of the nine-colored spiritual qi, their strength saw a slight increase. There were a total of 4 figures in the medicine spring. One of them was the ancestor of Medicine King Valley and also the current Medicine Emperor's master, the Old Medicine Emperor. The Old Medicine Emperor's double-barreled surname was Qijue and his given name was Yan. Although his name was a bit obscure, he was one of the top powerhouses in the Tianheng domain. However, as long as one's life level had not ascended to the supreme, achieving eternal imperishability, there would eventually be a day when life ran out. The current Qijue Yan was a living dead man who could only slumber in the medicine spring. Although he was a living dead man, he could still make a move. As long as there was a need, he would act. The Old Medicine Emperor had now awakened from his slumber, and his imposing voice quickly rang out, "What is it?" After the Old Medicine Emperor spoke, the Medicine Emperor and the others all knelt down, performing a grand kowtow. After the ritual, the Medicine Emperor said, "Reporting to Master, Medicine King Valley is in trouble." Qijue Yan opened his cloudy eyes, and death chi swirled within his pupils. "Who is attacking my Medicine King Valley?" Upon hearing this, the Medicine Emperor dared not delay and recounted to the Old Medicine Emperor the ongoing war between the Tianheng domain and the Emperor Star. After listening to him, the Old Medicine Emperor calmly said, "Since that is the case, let the 3 Grand Elders, Tian, Yun, and Lei, make a trip." After the Old Medicine Emperor gave his order, Grand Elder Yao Tian, Grand Elder Yao Yun, and Grand Elder Yao Lei slowly rose from the medicine spring. Although these 3 were also living dead, they could unleash terrifying battle power above Imperial Rank 7. Gu Qijue did not know that Medicine King Valley possessed such deep reserves. During this time, he had been using the Blood God Crystal to strengthen himself. The Blood God Crystal was a top-tier resource comparable to the 9-colored medicine spring. With an unlimited supply of Blood God Crystals, his strength developed rapidly. Initially, he could only slowly extract the energy contained within the Blood God Crystal. After a period of using the Blood God Crystal to improve, he was already able to absorb large amounts of energy from it. His strength also continued to advance by leaps and bounds, directly soaring to Imperial Rank 4 at an incredible speed. Gu Qijue was originally planning to continue improving for a few more days before ordering another attack. Unexpectedly, he hadn't ordered an attack, but Medicine King Valley actually began a counterattack at this time. As soon as he finished cultivation, Lai Kongwu rushed over in a panic to report the situation. "Your Excellency Xingju, Medicine King Valley has begun its counterattack." Gu Qijue was stunned upon hearing this. Does Medicine King Valley still have the guts to counterattack? He knew that Medicine King Valley still had trump cards. However, he thought that even with trump cards, Medicine King Valley would only dare to stand firm. He never expected Medicine King Valley to actually launch a counterattack. Upon hearing this news, Gu Qijue's answer was only 2 words: "Start the war." After absorbing a large amount of Blood God Crystal and seeing his strength rapidly advance again, he was also eager to test his results on the battlefield. Medicine King Valley's actions at this time were like running headfirst into a gun. During this period of cultivation, the 8.5 million combat troops of the Infinite Group Allied Forces had been replenished. Medicine King Valley also gathered a large army of cultivators from all directions, restoring their troop strength to the original 10 million level. This counterattack of theirs was the final decisive battle between the 2 sides. Gu Qijue did not wait for the Medicine Emperor to act this time. After the 2 sides began fighting, he directly appeared above the battlefield. Seeing him show up immediately, the Medicine Emperor was naturally overjoyed. However, the 3 Grand Elders of Medicine King Valley, Yao Tian, Yao Yun, and Yao Lei, did not show themselves. The Medicine Emperor planned to fight Gu Qijue, feign defeat, and then lure him deeper. Given Gu Qijue's temperament, he would surely pursue him all the way, ultimately falling into their ambush. The Medicine Emperor's idea was very good, but he would soon realize how vast the gap was between imagination and reality. the Medicine Emperor rose into the air and said coldly, "Your Excellency Xingju, it's still not too late to surrender now. If it's too late, Your Excellency Xingju and the Infinite Group allied forces will have no burial ground." Gu Qijue stood proudly in midair. Speaking indifferently, "The word surrender is not in my dictionary." He then continued, "Medicine King Valley dares to counterattack this time, so they must have sufficient confidence. Since that's the case, it's a good opportunity for me to experience it." The moment his voice fell, thunder continuously roared across the sky. The Thunder Battle Armor and Thunder Battle Saber quickly appeared. The Medicine Emperor had fought Gu Qijue before and knew his formidable power. When Gu Qijue unleashed his violent and terrifying thunder power, he dared not be negligent. A green pill furnace quickly appeared. Unfortunately, this time Gu Qijue had no intention of hiding his strength anymore. After his strength surged, he still struck with a full-power saber attack. Holding nothing back, the Medicine Emperor certainly wouldn't have thought that Gu Qijue had held back during their first encounter. This time, Gu Qijue not only went all out, but his strength had also greatly improved. Therefore, when Gu Qijue's world-splitting saber light descended, the Medicine Emperor still used his pill furnace to block it. The three Grand Elders, Yao Tian, hidden further back but constantly observing this battlefield, felt something was amiss after seeing Gu Qijue's saber strike. Gu Qijue's strength was even greater than what the Medicine Emperor had said. With the Medicine Emperor's ability, it was absolutely impossible to fight Gu Qijue to a standstill. When they fought last time, Gu Qijue 100% concealed his strength. Their judgment was correct. And a scene that shocked countless people in Medicine King Valley suddenly appeared at this moment. Boom! As Gu Qijue's world-splitting saber strike descended, the Medicine Emperor's pill furnace also fiercely met it. Clang! But at that very moment, the Medicine Emperor's pill furnace was instantly shattered by Gu Qijue's terrifying saber light. Without the green flame pill furnace to block, Gu Qijue's saber light continued its unchecked descent. Boom! The Medicine Emperor had no time to react at all and was completely engulfed by the saber light. Under the onslaught of countless thunder saber lights, the Medicine Emperor was directly blasted into dust, his body and spirit utterly destroyed. After unleashing this saber strike, Gu Qijue's icy gaze also turned to the distance, where three powerful auras had already emerged. 105. Forcefully storming into the forbidden area of the medicinal spring when Gu Qijue and Medicine Emperor exchanged blows, Lanzai, Jai Shang, Ape Emperor, and Cute Treasure were all watching the battle between the two sides. Not long ago, Gu Qijue had fought a great battle with Medicine Emperor, and at that time, Medicine Emperor escaped from Gu Qijue's hands. Jai Shang thought that this time, Gu Qijue would have to fight Medicine Emperor for a long time before a victor would be decided. But he never expected that Gu Qijue would instantly kill Medicine Emperor with a single saber strike. Ape Emperor's eyes widened as he looked at midair, saying in disbelief, "Instantly killed with one saber strike." Cute Treasure nodded with lingering fear. CEO Xing is truly too strong. I wonder if he was hiding his strength last time, or if he has made significant improvements recently. Of course, it's also possible that both are true, Jai Shang interjected. I think it should be both. After speaking, he added, I even think that CEO Xing hasn't gone all out yet. What? Ape Emperor was so shocked that it didn't know how to express its feelings. It knew Gu Qijue was strong. But wasn't this a bit too exaggerated? As the few of them were shocked, Lanzai spoke up to remind them, look, 3 more powerful auras have appeared there. Upon hearing this, Jai Shang instantly looked over. Then his expression suddenly changed. Trouble, how does Medicine King Valley have so many Imperial rank experts? Ape Emperor also said nervously, can CEO Xing fight 1 against 3? When they dealt with enemies of the same realm, they basically swept them away. But in the eyes of Imperial rank or even Saint rank experts, they were all ants that could be crushed with a pinky finger. If Gu Qijue was not a match for the 3 Imperial rank experts of Medicine King Valley, all members of the Infinite Group allied forces would be slaughtered by the 3 Imperial rank experts. While Jai Shang and Ape Emperor were extremely worried, an even more terrifying scene appeared at this moment. Above the 9 heavens, Gu Qijue's body erupted with endless thunder. The thunder battle saber in his hand also shone like a silver sun, unleashing an extremely terrifying might. Opposite him, Medicine King Valley's Grand Elder Yao Tian, Grand Elder Yao Yun, and Grand Elder Yao Lei were all continuously suppressed by him. Upon seeing this scene, Jai Shang was utterly filled with admiration and worship for Gu Qijue. He couldn't help but say, Lanzai, your brother is too strong, I probably won't be able to catch up to him in 10,000 lifetimes. Ape Emperor also swallowed a mouthful of saliva in shock, nodding at the same time. Me too. Above the 9 heavens. Gu Qijue didn't know that Jai Shang and the others, as well as the 18.5 million combat troops from both sides, were all shocked by him. At this moment, he was continuously suppressing the 3 Grand Elders, Yao Tian, and charging deep into Medicine King Valley. He knew that Medicine King Valley did not only have Medicine Emperor as an Imperial rank expert, there were other Imperial rank experts as well. Facts proved that his judgment was correct. However, he was a bit puzzled now as to why the 3 of Yao Tian were fighting and fleeing, retreating towards the deepest part of Medicine King Valley. Could it be that there was an extremely terrifying existence in that place? While thinking this, Gu Qijue's offensive didn't slow down in the slightest. His entire body radiated killing intent, locking onto Grand Elder Yao Yun, who was lagging behind the 3. Die, as the word die fell. His powerful and unyielding saber strike, imbued with immense thunder power, violently slammed down. Rumble, boom, boom. The brilliant thunder saber light, with the force of splitting heaven and earth, fiercely chopped down. Grand Elder Yao Yun saw Gu Qijue attacking him with full force and wanted to call for help. However, when he looked into the distance, he saw that the 2 Grand Elders, Yao Tian, had long been terrified by Gu Qijue's terrifying combat power. At this moment, Grand Elder Yao Tian and Grand Elder Yao Lei not only had no intention of rescuing him, but were desperately fleeing. Yao Yun was instantly filled with despair. Knowing that he was no match for Gu Qijue and could not escape from Gu Qijue's hands, he prepared to self-detonate. Buzz, a terrifying aura instantly boiled around Grand Elder Yao Yun's body. Gu Qijue naturally saw what he was about to do. Immediately, Gu Qijue said coldly, "In front of me. You are not qualified to self-detonate." As his voice fell, another terrifying saber light slashed out. This thunder saber light instantly caught up with the previous thunder saber light. The 2 incredibly fast thunder saber lights instantly merged, then with even greater speed, fiercely slashed towards Grand Elder Yao Yun. No! Grand Elder Yao Yun let out an unwilling, furious roar. Gu Qijue was too powerful and too ruthless. He was not Gu Qijue's opponent, and he wanted to self-detonate with dignity, but Gu Qijue wouldn't even give him the chance to self-detonate. Boom! The terrifying saber light, formed by countless thunderbolts, completely illuminated the heavens and earth. As that terrifying thunder saber light fell, Grand Elder Yao Yun had no room to resist at all and was directly annihilated. This battle, at this point, was truly without suspense. The remaining 2 Grand Elders were definitely not Gu Qijue's opponents. Unless Medicine King Valley still possessed even more terrifying old monsters, Medicine King Valley would become another resource collection point occupied by the Infinite Group allied forces. After the Great Yan Dynasty, facts proved that there were other old monsters in Medicine King Valley. When Gu Qijue charged all the way to Medicine King Valley's Medicine Spring restricted area, he saw the old Medicine Emperor, an Imperial rank peak great perfection expert. While seeing the old Medicine Emperor, Gu Qijue also saw mountains of various supreme treasures, especially the 9-colored spiritual Qi Medicine Spring. The energy purity of that 9-colored spiritual Qi could directly be compared to his blood god crystal. The old Medicine Emperor hadn't expected that his disciple and the 3 of Yao Yun, who collectively faced Gu Qijue, would end up with 2 dead and 2 injured. Although Yao Tian and Yao Lei were not killed and their injuries were not very serious. However, these 2 were clearly utterly terrified by Gu Qijue. At this point, seeing Gu Qijue chasing after them, the first reaction of the 2 was not to fight Gu Qijue to the death but to escape. Fortunately, the old Medicine Emperor spoke in time, stabilizing the 2, panicking. What kind of decorum is this? No matter how strong he is only one person, with the 3 of us working together. Why should we fear him? After old Medicine Emperor Xuanyuan Yan finished speaking, he left the 9-colored Medicine Spring and directly launched a palm strike through the air, fiercely attacking Gu Qijue. Gu Qijue showed no fear and met him head-on. The thunder battle saber in his hand instantly unleashed dozens, even hundreds of strikes. Whoosh, 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 bright, dazzling saber lights continuously flashed. Countless thunder saber lights surged forth like a torrential storm, making even the old Medicine Emperor feel somewhat overwhelmed. Grand Elder Yao Tian and Grand Elder Yao Lei had wanted to flee earlier. The Shenhuang continent is vast. Where could they not go? There was no need to lose their lives in this place. But now, the 2 of Yao Tian had no choice but to join forces with the old Medicine Emperor to resist Gu Qijue. 106. The end of Medicine King Valley was swift and devastating. Gu Qijue's power led the Infinite Group allied forces to a triumphant victory in their final decisive battle against Medicine King Valley. As Gu Qijue bravely and overwhelmingly cleaved the Medicine Emperor to death with a single strike, then fought his way into the Medicine Spring restricted area, the Infinite Group allied forces also swept forward with unstoppable momentum and morale. The cultivators of Medicine King Valley were not originally so useless. However, Gu Qijue, the leader of the Infinite Group allied forces, was simply too terrifying. Not long ago, countless eyes clearly and unmistakably saw Gu Qijue cleave the Medicine Emperor to death with a single saber strike. The shock brought by this scene was simply too immense. One could say that Gu Qijue's single strike completely shattered the confidence of Medicine King Valley's resistance. As Jai Yinyu, Lai Kongwu, and others led the Infinite Group allied forces, along with Jai Shang, Lan Zai, the Ape Emperor, and the Cute Treasure, to continue their advance. Large numbers of Medicine King Valley cultivators were often unable to organize any decent resistance and were annihilated. By this point, the battles on the regular battlefield were essentially over. Medicine King Valley's cultivator army was either dead or severely wounded. Some, however, simply scattered and fled. Only a very small number of cultivators were able to form battle formations and put up a desperate resistance. But it was useless. They still couldn't hold on for long before being completely wiped out. On the Saint Rank battlefield, Jai Yinyu's bloodline, after being continuously strengthened by Gu Qijue, had also improved significantly. This time, she once again rendered meritorious service. A Saint Rank expert from Medicine King Valley died by her hand. Several other Saint Rank experts were severely wounded by her, then surrounded and killed by Lai Kongwu, Xingyuan, Xingbao, Yang Chu, Silver Wing, and other Saint Rank experts. These two battlefields were essentially without any further surprises. It's just that no one knew what the situation was like on Gu Qijue's side. Gu Qijue's battle was, of course, smoother than anyone could have imagined. The dragon clan and legacy left by the 9 ancestors of the Blood Dragon allowed Gu Qijue to absorb the power of the Blood God Crystal. He was continuously strengthened, amplified, and repeatedly tempered by the immense and surging high-purity energy within the Blood God Crystal, bringing his combat power to an invincible, world-sweeping level. Even with the old Medicine Emperor and Yao Tian's trio working together, they were still beaten back repeatedly by him. Not only that, Yao Tian even sustained very serious injuries. If this continued, it wouldn't be long before Yao Tian would surely meet his demise. The old Medicine Emperor's understanding was also refreshed by Gu Qijue's power. Had he known Gu Qijue was so formidable and terrifying, he would have fled with Medicine King Valley's high-ranking members long ago. Unfortunately, it was too late for anything now. The only thing they could do now was fight to the death. As Yao Tian and the other person felt the urge to retreat, the old Medicine Emperor spoke again. Burn your origin. Fight to the death? This person definitely holds a huge secret. Killing him will grant us unimaginable benefits. Continuing to hold back will surely lead to death. Fighting to the death still gives us a chance of victory. As the old Medicine Emperor spoke, he directly began to burn his origin. He refused to believe that Gu Qijue, after fighting his way here and battling them for so long, would have no consumption. Swish, swish, swish. Gu Qijue's response to the old Medicine Emperor was only terrifyingly extreme saber light. The saber light in his hand, strike after strike, each more terrifying than the last. Rumble, rip. Each saber strike was world-shaking, splitting heaven and earth. The terrifying roar made people's minds tremble. In the Medicine Emperor's hand, a scroll was conjured. The thunder saber light cleaved out by Gu Qijue's thunder battle saber was continuously blocked by this scroll. Although this scroll was an extremely top-tier and powerful treasure, Gu Qijue's strength was simply too formidable. Under his continuous saber strikes, the scroll was actually forcibly cleaved with countless cracks. Yao Tian and Yao Lei, of course, were not idle either. Both tried every means, using all their techniques to desperately attack Gu Qijue. But it was useless. Gu Qijue's strength was simply too terrifying and formidable. No matter how many powerful spiritual techniques they unleashed, Gu Qijue would simply break them with a single thunder saber light. This scene was truly terrifying for Elder Yao Tian and the other elder. No matter their myriad methods, Gu Qijue always broke them with a single saber strike. How could this not be terrifying? Grand Elder Yao Lei finally couldn't bear the pressure and fled directly. A jade pendant was suddenly crushed by him. Then, a teleportation escape light instantly enveloped Grand Elder Yao Lei. In an instant, Grand Elder Yao Lei vanished without a trace. A snap of the fingers contains 60 Kshanas, and one Kshana contains 800 births and deaths. One can imagine how fast Grand Elder Yao Lei truly fled, with Grand Elder Yao Lei's escape. Old Medicine Emperor Xuanyuan Yan and Grand Elder Yao Tian were doomed. In anger and despair, Grand Elder Yao Tian directly self-detonated. Boom! Rumble! The Old Medicine Emperor was utterly desperate for a moment. With Grand Elder Yao Tian's self-detonation, the surrounding space was completely chaotic. He no longer had a chance to escape like Grand Elder Yao Lei. Rumble! Boom, 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 boom! Grand Elder Yao Tian's combat power wasn't great, but the power of his self-detonation was very strong. Gu Qijue instantly summoned countless bolts of thunder, completely enveloping himself. His thunder continuously generated and was continuously shattered by Yao Tian's self-detonation power. But even so, Gu Qijue remained extremely relaxed. Even an Emperor rank expert's self-detonation couldn't harm him in the slightest. Unless a group of Emperor rank experts lost their minds and simultaneously self-detonated around him, trying to perish together with him, in that situation, he would be in some trouble. Gu Qijue could withstand the power of Grand Elder Yao Tian's self-detonation. But the Old Medicine Emperor was in terrible luck. Grand Elder Yao Tian and Grand Elder Yao Lei, one was more cowardly than the other. Grand Elder Yao Lei, at the moment of life and death, abandoned them and ran directly. Then Yao Tian was also a bastard. The Old Medicine Emperor's entire attention and spiritual energy were basically used to directly resist Gu Qijue. As a result, Grand Elder Yao Tian, without a word, self-detonated on the spot. At this time, the one who bore the greatest impact was actually not Gu Qijue, but the Old Medicine Emperor. The Old Medicine Emperor's treasured scroll, which had not been shattered by Gu Qijue just now, was this time blasted into pieces by Grand Elder Yao Tian's self-detonation. Not only that, the completely unprepared Old Medicine Emperor, under Grand Elder Yao Tian's self-detonation, was directly blasted into complete annihilation of both body and spirit, utterly vanishing into nothingness. Medicine King Valley's Medicine Spring restricted area was also razed to the ground under the self-detonation of an Emperor rank expert. Many cultivators of Medicine King Valley were originally still fleeing towards the Medicine Spring restricted area. Unexpectedly, they didn't die at the hands of the enemy, but were instead wiped out by Grand Elder Yao Tian in one fell swoop. After the explosion ended, Gu Qijue moved and cleaved towards the Old Medicine Emperor with a saber. 107. Mental Imprint Control Emperor rank facing Gu Qijue's world-splitting strike. The Old Medicine Emperor straightened his clothes with great integrity and said, "Your Excellency, spare my life, I am willing to surrender." When Gu Qijue saw the other party straightening his clothes, he thought the Old Medicine Emperor was preparing to face death calmly. He never expected such a huge twist from the opponent. He almost couldn't pull back his blade. Although the Old Medicine Emperor was beaten until he was looking for his teeth on the ground by Gu Qijue, he was still an Emperor rank expert, and an Emperor rank expert of Medicine King Valley at that. If he was willing to surrender, Gu Qijue could still give him a chance to live. Gu Qijue immediately said, "Open your mind. Do not resist. I want to leave a spiritual imprint on your origin." This was a method from the legacy of the 9 ancestors of the Blood Dragon. Once the spiritual imprint was left, it was equivalent to installing surveillance in the Old Medicine Emperor's mind. He would be able to know the Old Medicine Emperor's thoughts and actions at all times. At the same time, he could control the Old Medicine Emperor, ordering him what to do and what not to do. It could be said that once the spiritual imprint was left, the Old Medicine Emperor would completely become his puppet. Gu Qijue was unsure how the Old Medicine Emperor would choose. If the opponent disagreed, he would simply cleave the Old Medicine Emperor with a single strike. Who knew that after he finished speaking, the Old Medicine Emperor immediately knelt on one knee and saluted, saying, "Your Excellency, please proceed." It was no wonder the Old Medicine Emperor was so spineless. He was currently weak to the extreme. There were only 2 paths laid before him: either be casually cleaved by Gu Qijue's blade, or cling to life dishonorably. Only by living was there hope, and only then could he seek a higher level of breakthrough. Even if the Old Medicine Emperor became a living dead man, he had to live. How could he hesitate at a time like this? After he opened his mind, Gu Qijue very easily left a spiritual imprint within his origin. Subsequently, the Old Medicine Emperor was completely controlled by him. The Old Medicine Emperor's memories, as well as all his methods, were completely known by Gu Qijue at this moment. Furthermore, He also learned that the old Medicine Emperor was currently on the verge of death. The old Medicine Emperor was seriously injured. Even if Gu Qijue hadn't acted, the old Medicine Emperor might have died on his own. This was also why the old Medicine Emperor had surrendered so readily moments ago. After the old Medicine Emperor surrendered, Gu Qijue pondered for a moment, condensed a mass of demon power crystal enhanced by blood god crystal, and threw it to the old Medicine Emperor. Take this to recover from your injuries. After being enhanced by the blood god crystal, his demon power crystal already possessed astonishing healing effects. Inside every piece of blood god crystal, besides the abundant and immense high-purity energy, there was also vigorous vitality. This made the current Gu Qijue even more powerful and terrifying. In addition to possessing world-dominating, all-conquering combat power, his recovery ability was also astonishing. Unfortunately, throughout this battle, he completely swept through and crushed his opponents with overwhelming force. His extremely astonishing self-healing ability did not have a chance to shine this time. The old Medicine Emperor took the demon power crystal thrown by Gu Qijue, and deep shock appeared in his eyes. After sensing it briefly, his pupils immediately constricted, and he asked incredulously, "Can your excellency absorb the supreme divine power contained within the blood god crystal?" Gu Qijue was slightly surprised. Normally, no one should be able to detect this anomaly. The old Medicine Emperor's situation must be relatively unique for him to have discovered this incredible matter. After the old Medicine Emperor spoke, Gu Qijue said, "From now on, you may call me CEO Xing, or you may call me Your Excellency Xingju. As for the matter of the blood god crystal, how did you know?" Gu Qijue was quite curious. He hadn't found any related memories in the old Medicine Emperor's mind. It wasn't that the old Medicine Emperor lacked this memory, but rather that he might have made deductions based on the knowledge he already possessed, thus arriving at this conclusion. Gu Qijue's assumption was, of course, entirely correct. The old Medicine Emperor immediately replied, "Reporting to Your Excellency Xingju, this is merely the only reasonable deduction this old man could make. Your Excellency Xingju and this old man are both imperial rank, but the intensity of Your Excellency Xingju's power is several, even dozens, of times greater than mine. Under these circumstances, the only possibility is that Your Excellency Xingju is capable of refining the supreme divine power contained within the blood god crystal." After receiving this demon power crystal from Your Excellency Xingju, this old man became absolutely certain of this matter. Gu Qijue nodded slightly, "So that's it, hurry up and heal, do not leak this matter." By saying this, he was naturally admitting that he could refine the supreme divine power contained within the blood god crystal. The old Medicine Emperor felt completely relieved. The supreme divine power contained in the blood god crystal was extremely intense, incomparable to any other resource. Unfortunately, ordinary beings and even great emperors like himself could not utilize this treasure. The old Medicine Emperor didn't know what kind of heaven-defying means Gu Qijue possessed to actually be able to utilize the supreme divine power contained within the blood god crystal. Following this, the old Medicine Emperor obeyed Gu Qijue's command and quickly healed and recovered. After he had healed for a moment, Gu Qijue continued to command, "Go and gather all the combat power of Medicine King Valley and make them surrender to me." After speaking, he instructed, "Keep things clean, I don't want to hear any dissenting voices." The old Medicine Emperor's body trembled, but he still replied, "I understand." With the old Medicine Emperor stepping forward, the matter was naturally very easy to handle. Most of Medicine King Valley's experts had either died in battle or fled directly before this. Even Grand Elder Yao Lei fled directly. Medicine King Valley's army of 10 million cultivators was also completely crippled. In the end, under the old Medicine Emperor's reorganization, Medicine King Valley's cultivator army was left with only 2 million elites, who joined the Infinite Group allied forces. After occupying Medicine King Valley, Gu Qijue and Jia Yinyu came together to the Great Medicine King Hall. Many high-ranking officials of the Infinite Group allied forces also arrived at the same time. Gu Qijue sat at the highest position in the hall and spoke indifferently. "Tell me the situation in various areas." Upon hearing this, Lai Kongwu immediately stepped forward. "Your Excellency Xingju, the battle between the Infinite Group, Allied Forces, and Medicine King Valley has completely concluded. Very few beings from Medicine King Valley escaped. The vast majority chose to surrender and are willing to gather resources for the Infinite Group. In this great battle against Medicine King Valley, The casualty rate of the Infinite Group allied forces was below the alliance standard, not reaching 30%, but settling at around 25%. After a period of recovery and replenishment, the Infinite Group will possess 1 million elite mercenaries, 3 million war machines, 1 million Great Yan cultivator soldiers, and 2 million Medicine King Valley cultivator soldiers. Gu Qijue nodded slightly upon hearing this and then asked an important question. What is the status of the Blood God crystal acquisition? Having acquired a taste for it, now that he knew the heaven-defying nature of the Blood God crystal, he was eager to gather all of it into his own hands. Lai Kongwu replied seriously. Although other forces have already begun investigating our true purpose for acquiring the Blood God crystal, we are still acquiring a large amount of Blood God crystal at extremely low prices. 108. Xingju. The most decorated player in the entire alliance aside from the post-battle matters at Medicine King Valley and the issues concerning Blood God crystals. Gu Qijue asked Lai Kongwu a few more questions before dismissing him and his group. Overall, the Infinite Group allied forces' progress was the smoothest in the entire alliance. The other few days, they encountered stubborn resistance. Some groups that weren't very strong even suffered significant losses. After everyone left, only Jai Yinyu remained in the Medicine King Grand Hall. After Jai Yinyu enveloped the Grand Hall with an energy light screen, she came and sat in Gu Qijue's embrace. She chuckled and said, "You've become stronger again." Gu Qijue also smiled. "Whether I'm strong or not, Director Jai has experienced it, hasn't she?" Jai Yinyu, of course, knew what this guy was talking about, and immediately rolled her eyes at him in annoyance. "HMPH, who's talking about that with you?" Gu Qijue persisted. "Does Director Jai want to try just how strong I am now?" Upon hearing this, Jai Yinyu's eyes flickered, and then she actually nodded. After she nodded, Gu Qijue naturally wouldn't be polite. The two, whose eyes were already locked, instantly kissed. Many of the Infinite Group allied forces soldiers guarding around the Medicine King Treasure Hall felt an intense tremor. It was as if war hammers were constantly beating drums, causing the ground to resonate and continuously vibrate. Everyone knew that this intense tremor originated from the Medicine King Treasure Hall, but they didn't know what exactly was happening. After all, with Gu Qijue and Jai Yinyu's terrifying strength, no matter what they did, they could cause such a huge commotion. The violent tremors continued for several days before gradually stopping. The resources collected within the Medicine King Valley territory could only be temporarily kept by Lai Kongwu. After all, no one could see Gu Qijue and Jai Yinyu during this period. While they were fighting on the front lines, the Emperor Star Alliance was also calculating merits for everyone. With the monitoring of the Emperor Star Will, everyone's merit statistics could be synchronized in real time. The Emperor Star Alliance's merit ranking also came out at this time. There were only 2 merit rankings in total. One was the individual ranking, and the other was the faction ranking. Only rankings appeared on the list, not the amount of merit. This merit was also the cumulative total merit, and this merit data would not decrease after using merit to exchange for items. The number 1 person on the merit ranking surprised many, yet it was also within reason. In the Emperor Star Alliance, Gu Qijue's current ranking was first on the entire alliance's merit ranking. This meant that the merits he had currently acquired surpassed the merits obtained by all other experts in the entire alliance. This was an astonishing achievement, as the time he took to emerge and rise rapidly on the Emperor Star was extremely short. Not much time had passed since then. In such a short period, he became the number 1 person on the entire alliance's merit ranking, which was naturally very shocking. While he was at the top of the merit ranking, he also brought Jai Yinyu to frantically climb the ranks. Jai Yinyu, despite not yet being an Emperor rank expert, actually ranked 18th on the merit ranking. Behind her, there happened to be 2 more Emperor rank old monsters. The names of these 2 had not appeared on the Emperor Star for the past 1,000 years. Clearly, they had been in continuous seclusion and only emerged for this great war. Not just these 2, but most other Emperor rank old monsters were essentially like this. Therefore, there weren't many Emperor rank old monsters openly on the Emperor Star, and it was only after the merit ranking came out that the Emperor Star Alliance members realized. It turned out that so many Emperor rank big shots had been hidden in the shadows all along. Gu Qijue and Jai Yinyu's rankings this time were a huge highlight. One was the number 1 in the entire alliance, and the other was from a Saint rank faction, yet her prominence overshadowed Emperor rank big shots. Gu Qijue and Jai Yinyu had been researching many positions these past few days and were not very clear about the outside situation. Neither of them expected that after their cultivation came to an end, something like a merit ranking would appear in the outside world. Lai Kongwu naturally reported the changes of these past few days to Gu Qijue in detail. After he reported some situations, Gu Qijue asked, "Is the number 1 on the faction ranking us?" Lai Kongwu smiled wryly. "We are currently ranked 5th on the faction ranking. The top 4 factions are all long-standing overlords of the Emperor Star, and they have all gone all out, engaging in full-scale war. At the same time, there are often 5 or 6 or even 7 or 8 battlefields where major battles are erupting." Gu Qijue nodded upon hearing this, then asked again, "How is the acquisition of blood god crystals going? What other cakes in Tianheng domain can be divided now?" Hearing Gu Qijue ask about these two matters, Lai Kongwu's expression couldn't help but turn bitter. Currently, there are only a very few hard bones left in Tianheng domain. Although there's profit to be made, they're not easy to conquer. For example, Heavenly Sword Mountain currently has 30 million sword chi sealing the mountain. To attack Heavenly Sword Mountain, one must break through the 30 million Dao of sword chi surrounding it. These sword chi are extremely lethal. The regular combat units of the Infinite Group allied forces would find it difficult to withstand more than 10 sword chi before dying. Heavenly Sword Mountain had clearly leveraged its geographical advantage, accumulating a very special advantage over countless years. While they couldn't do anything to the Emperor Star Alliance, they hid in their turtle shell, lacking in offense but abundant in defense. Gu Qijue noted down the situation of Heavenly Sword Mountain, then looked at Lai Kongwu and casually asked, "What's going on with the blood god crystals?" Speaking of this, Lai Kongwu got annoyed. "I don't know what's wrong with the several grand elders of the Emperor Star Alliance. Even though they can't use blood god crystals, they are also vigorously acquiring them. Not only that, but the prices they are offering are also very high. In the past few days, the Infinite Group hasn't been able to acquire blood god crystals at ideal prices." Gu Qijue was stunned at first, then quickly realized. Those old fellows clearly couldn't use them themselves, and also didn't want the blood god crystals to fall into his hands. So they started to inflate prices and disrupt the market. After thinking for a moment, Gu Qijue smiled and said to Lai Kongwu, "Sell the blood god crystals we've stockpiled to these old fellows. If the price of blood god crystals is higher than our previous set price, then sell them. If the price is lower than our previous set price, then acquire them vigorously, taking as many as possible." Lai Kongwu couldn't help but feel delighted upon hearing this. The price of blood god crystals was currently being driven up very high. If the Infinite Group were to dump a large quantity of blood god crystals, those groups speculating on blood god crystals, including several grand elders of the Alliance, would surely cry. After all, the Infinite Group currently likely controlled over 60% of the Alliance's blood god crystals. After arranging these matters, Gu Qijue prepared to discuss with Jia Yinyu where to attack next. Next, they could try to attack forces like Heavenly Sword Mountain. At the same time, they could also set their sights beyond the Tianheng domain. However, these matters required thorough discussion with Jia Yinyu before a decision could be made. Although Heavenly Sword Mountain was not easy to attack, he still wanted to go and see. 109. A decisive battle, the Battle of Medicine King Valley, concluded, and this established, powerful old force was completely taken over by Gu Qijue. In this battle, Tianyue Group did not exert much effort. Jai Tianyu didn't even arrive. Medicine King Valley, Spirit Medicine Field. In the vast white space, endless spirit medicine stretched like rice paddies. With no end in sight, this was an independent space, covering an area approximately 3 times the size of the moon combined. In each area, disciples were busy tending to the medicine fields. The resources from the Spirit Medicine Field were split 30/70 between Infinite Group and Tianyue Group. Infinite Group took 70%, Tianyue Group 30%. For Infinite Group, which primarily produces various elixirs, the demand for spirit medicine is undoubtedly enormous. After resolving the matter of Medicine King Valley, Gu Qijue left Lai Kongwu there and returned to the Alliance base that very day. Infinite Group Base, Central Building, Gu Qijue's office. Gu Qijue sat at his desk, impeccably dressed in a black suit, reviewing the battle reports from the various groups on Emperor Star. Currently, the Tianheng domain has largely been secured. However, there was still a tough nut to crack. What surprised Gu Qijue was that this tough nut was Heavenly Sword Mountain. All the remnants of the Tianheng domain forces were now gathered at Heavenly Sword Mountain. This was their last sanctuary. By Jingyi. Waiting nearby, whispered, CEO Xing, Heavenly Sword Mountain has caused considerable losses to the three old ancestors of the Alliance. Moreover, it seems that forces from outside domains have come to support them. No one knows how many powerhouses from outside domains have reinforced Heavenly Sword Mountain. Under the Alliance's summons, the major groups of Emperor Star are all converging on Heavenly Sword Mountain. Gu Qijue lit a cigarette for himself and said with a faint smile, "This is the final decisive battle. But it has nothing to do with me, if there's anything. You and Nangong Wanner make the decisions. I need to go into seclusion for a while." His imperial rank combat power was achieved through resonating with the Emperor Star will. He hadn't yet reached that level himself. Now, the Blood God Crystal could help him rapidly fuse the power within the Blood Dragon Pearl. This seclusion would at least start at the imperial rank. He arrived at the seclusion chamber. Xiao Yao was sound asleep, surrounded by star cores that Gu Qijue had purchased at high prices for its cultivation. Most of these star cores had lost their color, and Xiao Yao had advanced from Saint Grade 1st rank to 5th rank. Gu Qijue sat on a nearby meditation cushion, took out a Blood God crystal, and began to cultivate. During his cultivation, one group after another, and wave after wave of powerhouses from Emperor Star all gathered towards Heavenly Sword Mountain. The moment of the decisive battle drew ever closer. Half a month later, a small-scale decisive battle occurred between Emperor Star and Heavenly Sword Mountain. Subsequently, a sensational piece of news spread back. An old ancestor of the Alliance was ambushed by two Imperial rank peak powerhouses from other domains of the Shenhuang continent. While the Imperial rank peak powerhouses of Emperor Star were en route to provide support, he was tragically slain. As soon as this news spread, it was like a bomb, causing countless cultivators on Emperor Star to feel heavy-hearted. On that day, the major groups of Emperor Star, who had advanced on Heavenly Sword Mountain, retreated directly by 100,000 li. Half a month later, 150,000 li from Heavenly Sword Mountain, inside the Alliance's combat base. In the Supreme Council Hall, the old ancestors of Emperor Star's 24 hegemon groups, along with the founders of the 6 academies from the 6 continents, were all gathered here today. Everyone. Heavenly Sword Mountain in the Tianheng domain absolutely does not possess that many great emperor peaks. It is undoubtedly supported by forces from other domains. To take down Heavenly Sword Mountain, we will probably have to pay a considerable price. The first ancestor of the Alliance, a bald, burly old man who had achieved emperorship through his physical body on the Super Saint continent, with a divine furnace seemingly dormant within him, slowly rose from his seat and said, "Shall we fight, or shall we gather all resources and retreat? Let us discuss." The atmosphere was somewhat oppressive. Half a month ago, 4 great emperor peaks had emerged from Heavenly Sword Mountain, truly startling them. On Emperor Star, there were only 9 imperial rank peak powerhouses openly known. Now one had fallen, leaving 8. All of whom were present here, 2 from the Alliance and 1 from each of the 6 major academies. Heh, since we've already fought our way here, why retreat? The handsome man with long brown hair sitting next to Jai Tianyu smiled slightly and said, "My suggestion is to deploy the Starry Sky Cannon and fight them to the death." This person was Dao Taihuang, the founder of Myriad Demon Academy, a Yao race cultivator. No one knew what his true form was. His stature was imposing, his bearing upright, and his black vertical pupils were quite intimidating. I agree with Brother Dao. The Tianheng domain is basically ours now, and the amount of resources is so vast that we can't take it all away in a short time. Why not deploy the Starry Sky Cannon and let these natives experience the power of technology? The founder of the Technology Academy, a spirited woman with short hair that reached her ears, nodded in agreement. "This continent is so fertile, if we retreat, will any of you be willing?" Chuxin, the founder of the Divine Spirit Academy, twisted his neck and spoke with eager anticipation. After witnessing how fertile the Shenhuang continent was, who among those present would be willing to leave so dejectedly? Seeing this, the first ancestor of the Alliance slowly said, "In that case, let's vote by a show of hands. Those who agree to fight to the death, raise your hands." With that, he was the first to raise his hand. Seeing this, everyone else raised their hands without hesitation. The first ancestor of the Alliance exhaled softly and said, "Good, since none of you have any objections. Then let's not hide anything. Bring out all our foundations and fight to the death." Fight! Everyone's expression was solemn and they spoke in unison. After the meeting concluded, on the way out of the conference hall, Dao Taihuang looked at Jai Tianyu and shook his head, saying, "Back then, I pursued you so ardently, yet you remained unmoved. Now you humble yourself to a junior. It truly opens my eyes. Senior brother, Jai Tianyu chuckled softly. Senior brother Taehuang, he can make me evolve. What benefits can you bring me? Dao Taehuang didn't speak, and in a single step, his figure vanished. What kind of person Jai Tianyu was, Dao Taehuang, as her senior brother, knew all too well. Selfish and self-serving, she would use anyone to achieve her goals. Back then, he had indeed only pursued her. But that was ancient history now. Jai Tianyu shook her head. The decisive battle was approaching, and she also needed to go back and prepare. Romantic affections did not exist for her. If not for Gu Qijue being able to help her evolve her bloodline, how could she possibly humble herself to him? In Jai Tianyu's heart, it was all just a transaction. As this meeting concluded, the results of the meeting spread quickly. The 24 hegemon groups were all prepared to unleash the full extent of their group's foundations without reservation. Heavenly Sword Mountain, shrouded in endless sword chi, was also remarkably calm at this moment, but no one knew that behind this tranquility was the precursor to a bloody storm that would bury countless lives. It remained to be seen who would have the last laugh. 110, the Emperor Stars will actively recognized it as its master, reaching the heavens and the earth. Time flew by quickly, and 2 months passed in a flash. During this period, the 24 overlord groups of the Emperor Star, along with all the top-tier groups, were gathering powerful experts towards Heavenly Sword Mountain and transporting large quantities of highly destructive technological weapons. In contrast, Heavenly Sword Mountain was terrifyingly calm during this time. But who knew? Inside Heavenly Sword Mountain right now, powerful experts from 2 domains have already arrived as reinforcements. They were just waiting for the outsiders to launch a general offensive against them so they could wipe them out in one fell swoop. The reason they didn't launch an attack first was that they were afraid the outsiders would flee once they saw their formation. 4 million miles away from Heavenly Sword Mountain, bases were densely packed, stretching as far as the eye could see. Above the sky, starry sky cannons, each tens of thousands of feet long, floated like colossal pillars supporting the heavens. A rough estimate showed there were at least 10,000 units. The Starry Sky Cannon is the most terrifyingly destructive weapon on the Emperor Star. Even an Imperial rank peak expert wouldn't dare claim they could withstand a single shot completely unharmed. However, it also has drawbacks, that is, the energy required is enormous. Each shot consumes nearly 10% of an Overlord group's reserves. This is likely a decisive battle. I wonder if we'll survive? Inside a hotel at the Infinite Group base, Jai Shang and the others were gathering. Present were Cute Treasure, Ape Emperor Zhu Hongyu, Suqing, Lanzai, Sukayan, Muyuxin, Wu Jiao, Huolina Na, Yunzai, and several new faces. Cute Treasure took a sip of wine and said, "This is outrageous. I heard that the Emperor Star is practically emptying its nest this time, fielding only king-rank combat power. The mercenaries and robots from the major groups have somehow amassed over 30 billion units." Suqing laughed. "It's a good thing we all made the breakthrough to king rank, or we wouldn't even be qualified to participate in this battle, which is definitely going to be epic." Jai Shang gave a wry smile. "After this battle, who knows how many will be left? Come on. Let's have a drink. Life and death are determined by fate, wealth, and honor by heaven. Just kill and it'll be over. Cheers." Everyone raised their cups, chatting and laughing. The time for the general offensive was set for half a month later. No one could predict the outcome of the war. No one could afford the consequences of failure in a war of this scale. If the Emperor Star were to be defeated because of this, its origin chi would be severely damaged, and it would be impossible for them to launch another attack for tens or even hundreds of thousands of years. If Heavenly Sword Mountain were defeated, the Tianheng domain would also be completely declared lost. At the same time, at the Alliance main base, Infinite Group base room, central building, Gu Qijue's secluded cultivation room. Gu Qijue, sitting cross-legged on the futon, had his upper garment burst open. Black dragon patterns circulated on his body, and the dragon pearl on his chest had now turned into a black dragon pearl. The twin dragons coiled behind him, devouring blood god crystal stones one after another. "Who?" Just then, Gu Qijue slowly opened his eyes, exhaled a mouthful of foul air, clenched his fists, and showed a satisfied expression. "I finally finished refining the 9 blood dragon pearls and successfully advanced to Great Emperor, specifically 6th rank. The effect of the blood god crystal was surprisingly good for him. In less than 3 months, it actually allowed him to refine all the blood dragon pearls. HMPH, now. I no longer need to hide my identity or change my appearance." Gu Qijue's blood-red pupils flickered, and the bones in his face wriggled, returning him to his original appearance. Having returned to his original appearance, Gu Qijue looked at Xiao Yao beside him, who was still sleeping but had already reached Saint Rank 8. The speed of his advancement surprised even Gu Qijue. Without waking Xiao Yao, Gu Qijue got up, stood on the floor and left the secluded cultivation room. After showering, Gu Qijue took a special black suit from the wardrobe, put it on, and headed to the office. Bai Jingyi was working there. When she saw CEO Gu arrive, especially having returned to his original appearance, she was immediately delighted. She stood up to greet him and said, "CEO Gu, do you no longer need to hide your identity?" Her wine-red long hair was draped over her shoulders, and she was wearing a black but hugging women's suit, showing off her curvaceous figure and mature, charming face. Gu Qijue smiled slightly and said, "Whether it's the Emperor Star or the Shenhuang continent, I am nearly invincible. There's no need to hide anything." "As expected of you." Bai Jingyi looked at him with admiration in her eyes. Gu Qijue sat down in the office chair, lit a cigarette for himself, and asked calmly, "How is the situation in the Tianhong domain these days while I was in secluded cultivation?" "The situation is dire. The decisive battle is imminent." Bai Jingyi poured him a cup of tea and briefly informed him of the recent events, saying, "The outcome of this battle is uncertain. A month ago, I ordered people to harvest the spirit medicine fields in Medicine King Valley. They are basically all collected now, so win or lose, it won't matter much to us." Furthermore, over the past 2 months, the Alliance couldn't figure out how to extract the energy contained within the Blood God crystal, so they sold them off to us at a low price. Gu Qijue listened quietly, picked up the teacup, took a light sip and asked with some surprise, "It has already developed to this stage? When will the general offensive be launched?" "Half a month from now. No one can afford to lose this war." Bai Jingyi sighed slightly in amazement and said, "Lai Kongwu has also taken all of Infinite Group's high-end combat power over there. Should we participate?" "Participation is inevitable." Gu Qijue extinguished the cigarette butt in his hand, revealing a sinister smile, and said, "The forces that participated in the siege and killing of the Blood Dragon clan had better all die on the battlefield. Otherwise, they will die by my hand. He must avenge the Blood Dragon clan. How have Jai Shang and the others been recently?" Gu Qijue had never forgotten about them. Now he could properly cultivate them. Bai Jingyi replied, "They are all on the battlefield, having just recently made the breakthrough to King rank. Any cultivator on the Emperor Star who reaches King rank cultivation must be mobilized to the battlefield, including the war robots. We now have a total of 38 billion combat units on our side. I can hardly imagine what the scene will be like when the war begins." Gu Qijue smiled faintly, "With me here. We cannot lose. Go order someone to prepare a table of food and wine for me." "Understood." Bai Jingyi nodded, swaying her slender waist and full hips as she left. "Congratulations." Just then, the voice of the Emperor Star will sounded in Gu Qijue's ear. "What do you mean?" Gu Qijue asked with a half-smile. "Please give me a drop of your essence blood. I will acknowledge you as my master. From now on, I will be able to appear in the form of a black dragon, and you can summon me at any time." Hearing this, Gu Qijue remained silent, condensing a drop of black origin essence blood from his glabella. Buzz, the void realm rippled, and the essence blood vanished into thin air. Rumble, simultaneously, the sky outside changed color with wind and rain, and endless black lightning flashed rapidly. Roar, at the same moment on the Emperor Star far away from the Shenhuang continent, a loud, majestic dragon roar echoed across the sky. Subsequently, everyone on the Emperor Star could see a black dragon of immense size, whose full form was impossible to make out, rolling and circling above the clouds. Its dragon body, which obscured the sun and covered the sky, blocked out all light, plunging the entire Emperor Star into darkness at that moment. After circling the Emperor Star, this terrifying black dragon slowly disappeared above the clouds, as if it had never appeared. However, as long as Gu Qijue summoned it, it could immediately rush to the battlefield. 111. The final battle is approaching. As the decisive battle approached, countless native cultivators in the Tianhong domain were extremely nervous. They certainly hoped that Heavenly Sword Mountain would annihilate all the outsiders, if not for the cruel and merciless methods of the various groups from Emperor Star, who eradicated every major force they conquered. They would surely have been sabotaged from behind. Even the old Medicine Emperor of Medicine King Valley was somewhat restless, but unfortunately, Gu Qijue had already placed a restriction on him, so he dared not help even if he wanted to. Moreover, if he received an order from Gu Qijue, he would have to help the outsiders deal with his own people. Currently, all the native cultivators in the Tianheng domain were living under a dark cloud. They feared being enslaved by outsiders, forever living in an endless darkness. Upon learning that Gu Qijue had emerged from seclusion, Jai Tianyu rushed to see him immediately. Times had changed. When Jai Tianyu saw Gu Qijue today, her spirit was slightly shaken. In just 3 months seeing this man again, she felt an unparalleled sense of oppression from him. Moreover, his appearance had also changed. What was going on? In the restaurant, Gu Qijue sipped the red wine in his glass, looking at Jai Tianyu, who was stunned in place, and said with a half-smile, "Little vixen, coming to find me in such a hurry, are you feeling empty and lonely?" Hearing this, Jai Tianyu snapped back to reality, a captivating smile appearing on her mature and charming face. She swayed her hips as she walked towards him, a smile playing on her lips. "Of course, it's been 3 months and I've missed my little man to death." Today, she was wearing a purple hip-hugging short skirt, her figure graceful and slender with alluring curves. She walked straight up to Gu Qijue, then naturally wrapped one arm around his neck and sat her round, shapely bottom on his thigh. Bai Jingyi, seeing this scene, cursed her as a hussy under her breath. "Come, have a sip." Gu Qijue wrapped one arm around her slender waist and brought the stemmed glass to her tender, glistening red lips. "All right." Jai Tianyu slightly parted her red lips and took a gentle sip. "How are the war discussions progressing?" Gu Qijue's hand moved downwards, covering her round bottom. "If this battle is lost, Emperor Star won't be able to step foot on the Shenhuang continent for tens of thousands of years. All the necessary combat units are now in place, and when the war begins is just a word from the Alliance." Jai Tianyu's jade hand caressed Gu Qijue's broad and powerful chest, and she smiled charmingly. "It's only been a few months. What level have you broken through to?" Gu Qijue sipped the red wine in his glass and said with a faint smile, "Emperor level 6, invincible below the gods." "What?" Hearing this, Jai Tianyu could hardly believe her ears. Staring at him in utter shock, very surprised, Gu Qijue's large hand played with her ineffable parts, a wicked smile on his face. "Amazing, you're simply a pervert." Jai Tianyu no longer knew what words to use to express the shock in her heart. She had cultivated for tens of thousands of years. Yet this guy had casually surpassed her. Comparing oneself to others only brings anger. "You've changed back to your original appearance. Are you going to avenge the Blood Dragon clan?" Jai Tianyu stared at him and asked. "Indeed. It's time for reckoning. You weren't involved back then, were you? Otherwise, I might have to cruelly destroy a flower." Gu Qijue said, giving a firm squeeze. "HMPH, this is karma. I also thought about taking action back then. But thankfully, I didn't in the end. If you don't believe me, you can investigate." Jai Tianyu knew that Gu Qijue was not joking, and she couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief at this moment. Gu Qijue's eyes flashed with coldness, and he said indifferently, "I will investigate. Anyone who participated in the annihilation of the Blood Dragon clan back then will not escape unscathed. Go ahead and investigate. The clear will remain clear." Jai Tianyu leaned her red lips close to Gu Qijue's ear and said sweetly, "The war will begin in half a month. Let's cultivate together properly." Her purpose in coming here was naturally to cultivate with Gu Qijue, hoping to improve her strength, even if only a little. "Let's go, I've eaten my fill. Now, I'll taste you again." Gu Qijue smiled wickedly, wrapped his arm around her slender waist, and left. Bai Jingyi, watching them leave, couldn't help but feel envious. On the 12th day, Jai Tianyu, who was locked in an intense battle with Gu Qijue, suddenly received an emergency summons from the Alliance. She was slightly startled and said, "Hurry, the Alliance is calling me." "No problem." Hours later, Gu Qijue's energy erupted like a volcano, shocking Jai Tianyu, whose beautiful eyes widened. This immense energy almost made her unable to bear it. It directly allowed her to advance from Demon Emperor rank 4 to rank 5. Her bloodline was also undergoing subtle changes. It seemed that just a few more times, and she would completely transform. After the battle, the two washed up, dressed, and walked out of the bedroom. CEO Gu, Bai Jingyi, who was handling some documents in the office, saw them come out and stood up, greeting them with envy. "The group's matters are left to you. This decisive battle, it's time to begin." Gu Qijue nodded slightly to her, then quickly left the office with Jai Tianyu, leaving the Alliance war base. Gu Qijue tore open the Void Realm, pulling Jai Tianyu across. Half an hour later, the two appeared outside the highest conference hall at the central frontline base. This location was about 4 million li from Heavenly Sword Mountain. Looking back, countless bases of varying sizes were scattered across the landscape. Each base represented a group from Emperor Star. Each base was garrisoned with an unknown number of combat units. Infinite Group's war base was also among them. They were just waiting for the horn of war to sound. That would be the moment they launched their total assault. When the true decisive battle arrived, this entire world might be shattered. Inside the highest conference hall, the founders of the 6 major academies, the 2 old ancestors of the Alliance, and the old ancestors of the 24 hegemonic groups were all present. Except for Jai Tianyu. Where is Jai Tianyu? We've been waiting for her for several hours. What great face! Nangong Hayashin, the founder of the Cultivation Academy, spoke impatiently at this moment. To dare make them wait for so long, everyone present felt more or less displeased. My apologies. I was delayed by some matters and made everyone wait. Just as someone else was about to voice their dissatisfaction, Jai Tianyu's voice drifted in from outside. Everyone looked over, and when they saw an unfamiliar man beside her, their eyes immediately narrowed slightly. From this man, even the emperor-level peaks present felt a considerable sense of oppression, and the 2 old ancestors of the Alliance had their pupils contract sharply. My apologies, my apologies. I'm late, Jai Tianyu bowed to everyone present and said, "This is Gu Qijue, the helmsman of Infinite Group. Previously, due to identity issues, he had to conceal his appearance, but now there's no need, because no one can threaten him anymore." Hearing this, everyone's gaze repeatedly scrutinized Gu Qijue. Those who were unaware were very curious about this person's background. To be able to advance so quickly. 112. Slay the remnants of the Blood Dragon. Inside the Alliance conference hall, everyone was utterly shocked by the powerful aura Gu Qijue displayed. After sensing the immense power originating from the 9 ancestors of the Blood Dragon on him, the expressions of several people in the hall changed instantly. After exchanging glances, they made a decision that was both surprising and perfectly reasonable. Even though a great war was imminent, they still chose to start an internal conflict first. Since Gu Qijue was a remnant of the Blood Dragon clan, he had to die. If Gu Qijue didn't die, they certainly would. More than 8 powerhouses instantly stood up. Boom, boom, boom. The powerhouses who had been hiding in the dark and hadn't appeared in the conference hall earlier also smashed through the walls and arrived, including the previous 8. There were now 3 great emperors and 19 quasi-emperors. In the great war that annihilated the Blood Dragon clan, these individuals had exerted tremendous effort. Since Gu Qijue was a remnant of the Blood Dragon clan, he and they possessed a blood feud that could not coexist. Regardless of whether Gu Qijue could resonate with the Emperor's star will or how powerful he was now, there was only one path laid before Gu Qijue, and that was death. Gu Qijue hadn't expected these guys to be so impatient. Moreover, the powerhouses hidden in the dark were summoned immediately, facing 3 great emperors and 19 quasi-emperors. Any single great emperor would likely suffocate. This wasn't a question of whether they could win, but whether they could possibly escape. But Gu Qijue did not flee, instead. He walked to his seat and poured a glass of red wine into a goblet. Although the 2 old ancestors of the Alliance felt indifferent toward Gu Qijue, and even had some complaints about him regarding the Blood God Crystal incident, yet, with the Great War imminent, they still had to speak up for Gu Qijue. Everyone, the Great War between us and Heavenly Sword Mountain is about to begin. At this moment, why must we fight among ourselves? Is there anything that cannot be resolved by sitting down and talking slowly? An imperial rank old ancestor from the Cultivation continent said indifferently. The Blood Dragon clan is inherently bloodthirsty. If we hadn't joined forces back then to completely exterminate the Blood Dragon clan, there would be no prosperity on Emperor Star today. Because 8 or 9 out of 10 living beings on Emperor Star would have already been wiped out by the Blood Dragon clan. This powerhouse was named Purple Heaven Sword Emperor, wearing a purple cloak, with purple pupils and a purple beard, giving him a somewhat sinister appearance. Purple Heaven Sword Emperor's words were, of course, slander against the Blood Dragon clan. Although the Blood Dragon clan was bloodthirsty, they weren't so bad that they killed people just because they had nothing better to do. Everyone present were old foxes who had lived for thousands of years, so naturally, they wouldn't believe Purple Heaven Sword Emperor's baseless claims. Gu Qijue did not bother to explain regarding Purple Heaven Sword Emperor's slander. He saw no need to explain anything to a dead man. Since he didn't explain, the 2 old ancestors of the Alliance could only try to persuade them again. Everyone, the Great War is imminent. If we start fighting among ourselves and cause such a commotion, won't we just become a laughingstock for the people of Heavenly Sword Mountain? Please listen to this old man. Peace is paramount. After the Great War is over, anything can be discussed. Purple Heaven Sword Emperor spoke arrogantly. We have nothing to say to the remnants of the Blood Dragon clan. After speaking, Purple Heaven Sword Emperor said coldly again, "Those who are irrelevant. Step far away, or don't blame us for treating you as an accomplice of the Blood Dragon clan remnants." He was, of course, referring to Jai Tianyu, who was standing side by side with Gu Qijue. Many people felt that if Jai Tianyu was sensible, she should step aside now. 3 great emperors and 19 quasi-emperors. Such power was enough to make any great emperor perish right there. After Purple Heaven Sword Emperor and the others annihilated the Blood Dragon clan, they clearly kept a contingency plan. They worried that remnants of the Blood Dragon clan might escape, so they were always prepared to gather and eliminate them. Unexpectedly, after Purple Heaven Sword Emperor finished speaking, Jai Tianyu smiled brightly and said, "You guessed correctly, this emperor is indeed his accomplice. What can you do to me?" The already tense atmosphere in the conference hall now became even more strained. No one expected Jai Tianyu to make such an irrational choice under these circumstances. Of course, if they knew Gu Qijue's current strength, they would understand who was truly being irrational. Purple Heaven Sword Emperor nodded slightly. "Fine, Jai Tianyu. Since you insist on being buried with the Blood Dragon clan remnant, I won't stop you." He finished speaking, looked at Gu Qijue and said, "Xingju, or rather Gu Qijue, will you make it dignified yourself, or shall we help you make it dignified?" After Purple Heaven Sword Emperor spoke, a quasi-emperor said, "Considering that you are a great emperor powerhouse, please commit suicide." The remaining quasi-emperors also spoke up at this moment. "Please commit suicide. That way you can maintain some dignity. And you won't implicate Demon Emperor Jai?" The situation on the field seemed extremely unfavorable for Gu Qijue. The powerhouses from all sides of the alliance also felt that suicide might be a good choice for Gu Qijue right now. At least this way, he could die with some dignity, instead of being beaten to death by the messy fists of 3 great emperors and 19 quasi-emperors, leaving behind no complete corpse. Gu Qijue had originally intended to grant these people a dignified end. He was preparing to settle accounts after the Great War concluded. He never thought that while he wanted to give these people dignity, they didn't want it. Upon discovering his true identity, they immediately jumped out. This way, it saved him a lot of trouble. It saved him the need to search for every single enemy of the Blood Dragon clan one by one. Just as both sides were at daggers drawn and about to strike, Jai Tianyu chuckled lightly. "Just kill a few of the clueless ones later, the rest can still be put to good use." Gu Qijue's eyes flickered and he asked, "How can they be put to good use?" Jai Tianyu smiled. "Let them go consume Heavenly Sword Mountain's river of Sword Qi. If so many great emperors and quasi-emperors self-destruct in the river of Sword Qi, they might just be able to blow up Heavenly Sword Mountain's river of Sword Qi." Gu Qijue nodded. "A good idea. There's no harm in utilizing trash." These words were undoubtedly extremely arrogant. If Jai Tianyu didn't intervene this time, Gu Qijue would be facing 3 great emperors and 19 quasi-emperors alone. The people present could imagine countless ways for him to die, but not a single way for him to live. Purple Heaven Sword Emperor laughed wildly toward the sky. "This is the funniest joke this emperor has heard in 1,000 years. Although I don't know how you stepped into the imperial rank. How can you, a newly ascended imperial rank, contend against 3 veteran great emperors and 19 quasi-emperors? Since you don't want dignity yourself, this emperor can only help you achieve it." As Purple Heaven Sword Emperor's voice fell, he struck with a sword. Swish! This single sword strike instantly split the alliance base, which resembled an asteroid, into 2 halves. The other powerhouses also took action at this moment. Then, under the speechless gazes of the big shots from all sides, the alliance base was directly blown up. This scene was undeniably absurd. The Emperor Star allied forces appeared aggressively at the entrance of Heavenly Sword Mountain, and then the place where the alliance leaders held their meeting exploded. 113, from now on, I will rule the Emperor Star. The commotion here was immediately known by all groups and organizations within the alliance. Jai Shang and others from the Emperor Star Academy also looked up, gazing into the distance. The Ape Emperor said uncertainly, "Damn it, were we crystal ganked? Why did the Alliance Supreme Council Hall explode?" Not only did the Ape Emperor have this thought, but others thought the same. After all, to shoot a man, first shoot his horse. To catch a bandit, first catch his king. Who knew if Heavenly Sword Mountain had suddenly launched an attack, directly carrying out a decapitation strike against the Alliance's many experts? Bang! In midair, an extremely terrifying scene truly appeared at this moment. The controller of a certain group, a quasi-emperor expert, was actually blown apart by a single punch. What's going on? Cute Treasure looked at the blood rain scattering across the sky in midair, completely stunned for a moment. Lanzai's delicate face first showed surprise, then a look of joy. It's my brother. When Jai Shang and the others looked again, they naturally saw the figure that made them incredibly excited and brought tears to their eyes. They originally thought their boss, this legend of an era, had become a relic of the past, destined to remain there forever, but none of them ever expected to see Gu Qijue here. Boss is awesome, the ape emperor exclaimed excitedly. After Gu Qijue arrived at Emperor Star, it was as if he either didn't fly at all or soared to the sky, didn't sing at all or astonished everyone with his first note. His first move this time was earth-shattering. The Quasi-Emperor expert, revered by countless people, was merely a single punch in his hands. The battle in midair was extremely brutal, extremely terrifying. It wasn't even a battle, but a one-sided. Terrifying Chinese letter. Gu Qijue's first move suppressed a Quasi-Emperor. Then, his entire body bathed in thunder, he raised his hand and grabbed. And another Quasi-Emperor was choked by him. Under the shocked gaze of Jai Tianyu and the others, this Quasi-Emperor had no room to resist and was casually crushed to death by Gu Qijue. However, this was just the beginning. An even more brutal battle was just starting at this moment. Facing the siege of Purple Heaven Sword Emperor and the others, Gu Qijue's Thunder Battle armor instantly appeared around him. He flicked his hand, and the Thunder Battle saber was already in his grasp. Swish, 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 swish. Suddenly, streaks of thunder saber light, tearing through the heavens and earth, erupted, a scene that shocked the two Alliance old ancestors, and the old ancestors of various groups immediately appeared. Gu Qijue, with one man and one saber, swept through the battlefield, routing thousands. Purple Heaven Sword Emperor and the others desperately used their most powerful techniques, yet they were still beaten back steadily. When the two Alliance old ancestors saw this scene, they immediately understood that a new era had begun. This era belonged to Gu Qijue and his saber that swept across the world. Aside from the two Quasi-Emperors who were instantly eliminated, the remaining 3 Great Emperors and 17 Quasi-Emperors were all beaten back steadily by Gu Qijue. While continuously wielding his saber to suppress them, Gu Qijue spoke calmly. Those willing to commit suicide and contribute their last bit of warmth to Emperor Star, step aside. Otherwise, this emperor will not be polite. Upon hearing these words, all the experts watching this battle were dumbfounded, stunned, and shocked to the extreme. Gu Qijue, with his own strength, suppressed so many experts, yet he still hadn't gone all out. How strong exactly was Gu Qijue now? No one knew how strong Gu Qijue was. But these great emperors and quasi-emperors were not prepared to commit suicide either. Since death was inevitable, they might as well join forces and see if they could kill Gu Qijue. Gu Qijue shook his head in extreme disappointment. It seems you have no awareness of dedicating yourselves to Emperor Star. Since that's the case, you shall pay the price for your past mistakes. As Gu Qijue's voice fell, his figure suddenly appeared in front of a Quasi-Emperor. CEO Gu, spare me, looking at Gu Qijue so close. This Quasi-Emperor chose to beg for mercy. Too late, Gu Qijue had no intention of forgiving the other party. With one saber strike, the expert turned into 2 half-people. The previous 19 Quasi-Emperors seemed imposing and very frightening, but once they actually moved, all these Quasi-Emperors were nothing but chickens and dogs. Let alone these Quasi-Emperors, even the 3 Great Emperors, including Purple Heaven Sword Emperor, were suppressed by Gu Qijue to the point of being breathless. This battle had no remarkable points, because it was completely a one-sided beatdown, a one-sided massacre. In less than the time it takes to eat a meal, Purple Heaven Sword Emperor, who had been laughing wildly to the sky earlier, knelt before Gu Qijue. But he couldn't laugh anymore, because Gu Qijue's Thunder Battle saber had already pierced his skull, completely nailing him to death. Gu Qijue had originally intended to adopt Jai Tianyu's plan, but Purple Heaven Sword Emperor and the others preferred death rather than making a final contribution to Emperor Star. Gu Qijue swung his saber, and Purple Heaven Sword Emperor's head flew off. He had no hobby of turning enemy skulls into drinking vessels. He was merely borrowing Purple Heaven Sword Emperor's head for a moment. He held Purple Heaven Sword Emperor's head and appeared above all the experts of the Emperor Star Alliance, his majestic voice sweeping in all directions. My name is Gu Qijue. I previously used the alias Xingju and founded the Infinite Group. From this moment on, I am the Lord of Emperor Star. Who agrees, who opposes? If he hadn't been holding Purple Heaven Sword Emperor's head, there might have been some hotheads who would have opposed him. Now that Purple Heaven Sword Emperor's head was swinging in his hand, who was tired of living enough to dare oppose him? Seeing no one opposing him from all directions, Gu Qijue continued. The Emperor Star Alliance Supreme Council will continue. All quasi-emperors and above shall attend the meeting. Not only the original experts of Emperor Star, but also the quasi-emperors and imperial rank experts who have submitted to various factions, all must come. After he finished speaking, he headed to the backup base of the Emperor Star Alliance Supreme Council. By now, many Alliance experts had already appeared there. Upon Gu Qijue's arrival, everyone immediately parted like a tide, making way for him, their faces showing utmost respect. He was still holding Purple Heaven Sword Emperor's head. People are forgetful, especially powerful experts who are even more prone to forgetfulness. The head of Purple Heaven Sword Emperor, an imperial rank 5th level expert, could keep everyone sober. In the Alliance backup base, Gu Qijue did not defer, directly appearing at the main seat and sitting down. The other great emperors of the Alliance, of course, could only sit below. After everyone was seated, Gu Qijue's gaze swept across the entire hall. Then he discovered that although he had killed 3 great emperors and 19 quasi-emperors, the experts who arrived at this moment easily filled that void, and there were even more people than before. It was clear that the various forces and groups had been hiding their strength before, but his previous thunderous methods made these forces and groups maintain sufficient honesty with him. They were obviously worried that he might find an excuse to wipe them out as well. Even the peak great emperors present dared not underestimate Gu Qijue anymore. 114. Pre-battle mobilization. The river of sword energy shatters. After all the powerful experts of the Emperor Star Alliance had arrived, Gu Qijue poured a glass of red wine into the goblet in front of him. After downing the wine, he continued, all those who participated in the slaughter of the Blood Dragon clan are ultimately doomed. This is beyond doubt. Next, we will discuss the matter of attacking Heavenly Sword Mountain, and what happens after the attack. If anyone has any brilliant ideas, please speak freely. Everyone was still deeply terrified of him at this moment. How could they dare to speak freely? In the end, it was Gu Tianyu who broke the heavy and oppressive atmosphere to attack Heavenly Sword Mountain. The best method is still to use the planet Annihilation cannon to blast open their river of sword chi. How about the costs of using the planet Annihilation cannon be shared among the countless large and small factions within the entire Emperor Star Alliance? After Gu Tianyu finished speaking, Dao Taihuang nodded in agreement. I agree with this plan. Otherwise, the river of sword chi surrounding Heavenly Sword Mountain will be too difficult to breach. The rest of the people also spoke up in agreement, their voices trembling slightly, unlike the tone of powerful experts. There was no helping it. Gu Qijue, who was currently sipping his wine, had just recently slaughtered 3 great emperors and 19 quasi-emperors, appearing like a world-destroying Asura. Fortunately, Gu Qijue had no intention of killing everyone and becoming a commander without troops. Furthermore, he had no reason to go on a killing spree without cause. The many powerful experts present actually had nothing to worry about. After everyone expressed their opinions and shared many ideas, Gu Qijue synthesized everyone's ideas, finalized the decision, and said, I understand everyone's thoughts. They basically boil down to the following points. First, use the planet Annihilation cannon to blast open Heavenly Sword Mountain's river of sword chi. Second, divide the spoils of war according to merit. There are no issues with these points. Everyone, return and prepare. In half an hour, we will launch a full-scale assault on Heavenly Sword Mountain. If Gu Qijue hadn't suddenly appeared, everyone would have had to discuss many more details. Now, that wasn't necessary, because whatever Gu Qijue said went. Unless they wanted to trade places with Purple Heaven Sword Emperor and have Gu Qijue carry their heads next time, the overlords of the various factions and major groups returned to their respective organizations to convene the final war council. Even Gu Tianyu returned at this time. Although Gu Tianyu left, Gu Yinyu was called over by Gu Qijue. He called Gu Yinyu over to discuss matters of longer-term significance. After spending time together, he had realized that Gu Yinyu was an intelligent woman with innate talent who could formulate strategies. Compared to Gu Tianyu, who was mutually using him, Gu Yinyu had undoubtedly given her body and soul completely to him. In other words, she was his sole partner. Half an hour passed in the blink of an eye. In the conference hall of the Infinite Group's floating base, Gu Qijue and Gu Yinyu stood side by side. Gu Qijue was not prepared to command the upcoming battle, nor could he. 380 billion combat troops was a terrifying concept. Even if he commanded 100 million combat troops at a time, he would need to issue 380 consecutive orders to command 380 billion combat troops. Although Gu Qijue was not planning to command the battle, He was preparing to boost the confidence of the Emperor Star allied forces. After the Emperor Star's 380 billion combat troops had finished gathering, Gu Qijue took a step forward, appearing right in front of everyone. The two elders of the alliance, the old ancestors of the various factions and major groups, and the 380 billion combat troops of the Emperor Star allied forces all turned their gazes toward him. Facing the crowd was Heavenly Sword Mountain, towering high into the clouds, propping up the sky and covering the earth. Heavenly Sword Mountain was completely encircled and shrouded by the river of Sword Qi, which resembled a great river, making it impossible to see the situation inside clearly. However, according to intelligence from all sides, there were likely more than 40 billion cultivators inside Heavenly Sword Mountain watching Gu Qijue with hostile intent at this very moment. At this moment, Gu Qijue's majestic and domineering voice began to echo between heaven and earth. This battle is the final one for Emperor Star to conquer Tianheng Domain. Everyone must fight bravely and tenaciously. After this battle, Tianheng Domain will become a resource collection area for Emperor Star, and your performance in battle will determine how much profit each of you can gain. The overall structure of Emperor Star is already largely fixed, but Tianheng Domain is a new continent, where there will be infinite possibilities. This will be the stage for you to showcase your abilities. Emperor Star allied forces, heed my command, commence battle. As soon as Gu Qijue's voice fell, tens of thousands of planet annihilation cannons reacted simultaneously. Boom, boom, boom. Beams of laser light piercing heaven and earth continuously roared fiercely towards the outer river of Sword Qi protective formation, enveloping Heavenly Sword Mountain. The 380 billion Emperor Star combat troops spread out, covering the sky and the earth, dense and limitless. When they completely surrounded Heavenly Sword Mountain, they resembled patches of black clouds, utterly enveloping the mountain. They only waited for the planet annihilation cannons to shatter Heavenly Sword Mountain's river of Sword Qi protective formation before launching a fierce assault on Heavenly Sword Mountain. Inside Heavenly Sword Mountain, reinforcements were constantly arriving. Fearing the Emperor Star's brutality, the surrounding domains continuously sent support to Heavenly Sword Mountain, understanding that if the lips are gone, the teeth will be cold. They not only had to defend against the Emperor Star allied forces at Heavenly Sword Mountain, but they also had to help Heavenly Sword Mountain push them back. Under the sustained bombardment of the planet annihilation cannons, the impregnable river of Sword Qi protecting Heavenly Sword Mountain constantly shook, and even began to shatter amidst the violent vibrations. After an unknown period, the river of Sword Qi surrounding Heavenly Sword Mountain finally reached its limit. Then, the river of Sword Qi wrapping Heavenly Sword Mountain collapsed completely with a loud boom. Kill! After the river of Sword Qi collapsed, the various factions of Emperor Star let out bursts of furious roars. Annihilate them completely, leave none alive, kill them all and completely occupy Tianheng Domain. Tianheng Domain belongs to us, and death belongs to them. Although the powerful experts of the Emperor Star Alliance had just recently engaged in a terrifying and world-shaking battle, the morale of the Emperor Star allied forces was not affected. In fact, after everyone learned that Gu Qijue was capable of maneuvering freely, sweeping away all opposition, and easily suppressing 3 great emperors and 19 quasi-emperors, their fighting fervor was completely ignited. Emperor Star's #1 expert, Gu Qijue, killed great emperors and quasi-emperors as easily as slaughtering pigs and dogs, or even taking something out of his pocket. What was there to fear? The morale of the 380 billion Emperor Star combat troops was boiling like never before. Heavenly Sword Mountain, after gathering the remnants and defeated soldiers of Tianheng Domain, possessed approximately 20 billion combat troops. Now, Ice Soul Domain and Black Wind Domain were continuously sending reinforcements here. Within the heaven and earth inside Heavenly Sword Mountain sect, Black Wind Domain and Ice Soul Domain had dispatched large numbers of reinforcements to Tianheng Domain during this period. Black Wind Domain and Ice Soul Domain had each conveniently dispatched 10 billion reinforcements. This meant that the forces for this major battle were 40 billion versus 38 billion, giving Heavenly Sword Mountain the advantage. After the river of Sword Qi was shattered by the planet annihilation cannons, the cultivators of Heavenly Sword Mountain were not intimidated. Over 40 billion cultivators immediately charged out like swarming locusts, engaging the Emperor Star allied forces in battle. 115, beneath Heavenly Sword Mountain, a demigod supreme being the great battle between the Emperor Star allied forces, 38 billion combat troops, and the Heavenly Sword Mountain allied forces' 40 billion cultivator army was truly shocking. Above and below, in all directions, everywhere the eye could see was a battlefield. Everywhere, the combat troops of the Emperor Star allied forces were desperately clashing with the cultivator army of the Heavenly Sword Mountain allied forces. More accurately, the Heavenly Sword Mountain allied forces should be called the Tianhong Domain allied forces. However, at this moment, no one seemed to care about such distinctions. Nearly 80 billion combat troops from both sides were engaged in the fiercest confrontation. If Earth had 8 billion people, 80 billion combat troops would mean 10 Earth's worth of beings fighting on one massive battlefield. The sheer number of people and the vastness of the battlefield exceeded many people's imaginations. Gu Qijue was at the rear of the Emperor Star allied forces, his gaze sweeping across the various battlefields. The previous battles were between the Infinite Group allied forces and the native forces of the Tianhong Domain. Whether attacking the Great Yan Dynasty or the subsequent Medicine King Valley, everything went smoothly. This time, however, was different. The Emperor Star allied forces encountered considerably strong resistance, both on the conventional battlefields and the Imperial rank battlefields. Both sides were evenly matched. Gu Qijue looked around but had no intention of joining the battle. He was waiting for the Tianhong Domain to reveal a more powerful trump card. He didn't know if the Tianhong Domain had such a trump card, but logically speaking, they should. After the Emperor Star will acknowledged him as its master, Gu Qijue also became aware of some of the Emperor Star's secrets. On the current Emperor Star, there was an extremely ancient existence. That person possessed demigod strength, but it had been countless years since they last made a move. Although the other party had been silent and had not made a move for their long past years, their strength was that of a genuine demigod. Since the Emperor Star had a demigod expert, there was no reason for the Tianhong Domain not to have one. Although the Tianhong Domain didn't possess the Emperor Star's many black technologies, this place was extremely rich in resources. Under the accumulation of massive resources, a demigod expert would surely be born no matter what. Through the Emperor Star will's perception, Gu Qijue knew that the Emperor Star's demigod old ancestor had already appeared nearby, but there had been no movement from the Tianhong Domain. He didn't know if the Tianhong Domain had no demigod old ancestor, or if they were waiting for something. Of course, the Tianhong Domain had a demigod old ancestor. Their demigod old ancestor was not an ordinary demigod, but a demigod who failed to break through to the god rank. There are two types of demigods. One is an intermediate expert above the imperial rank and below the god rank. The Emperor Star's demigod old ancestor was this type of demigod, whose strength surpassed the imperial rank but had not yet touched the god rank. The other type of demigod is one who failed to break through to the god rank. They already possessed the qualifications to attempt the god rank, but their attempt failed. The Tianhong Domain's demigod was this type of demigod. This demigod was none other than the founder of Heavenly Sword Mountain, Venerable Heavenly Sword. At the very bottom of Heavenly Sword Mountain, there was an underground tower. The underground tower was filled with endless sword chi. For each level down, the sword chi would double in strength. At the very bottom of the underground tower, Venerable Heavenly Sword sat like a statue, having been in reclusive meditation for countless tens of thousands of years. As long as Heavenly Sword Mountain wasn't facing annihilation, he would basically not emerge from seclusion. However, Venerable Heavenly Sword truly did not expect that while Heavenly Sword Mountain had not yet been destroyed, the entire Tianhong Domain had already fallen. Heavenly Sword Mountain, protected by the River of Sword Chi, had become the last sanctuary of the Tianhong Domain. Now, Heavenly Sword Mountain was also drawn into the great battle, feeling the earth-shattering battle outside. Venerable Heavenly Sword opened his cloudy eyes and perceived for a moment. After probing with his divine sense for a moment, Venerable Heavenly Sword couldn't help but curse. A bunch of good-for-nothings. They actually let outsiders drive them all the way to Heavenly Sword Mountain. With his strength, he could naturally see at a glance that the individual combat capabilities of the Emperor Star allied forces were not very strong, but they used a large number of technological weapons. Venerable Heavenly Sword naturally wouldn't take such a group of outsiders seriously. The people currently clashing, however, were unaware that Venerable Heavenly Sword was observing the situation here. On the various battlefields, the combat troops of both sides were fighting desperately, bathed in blood. Venerable Heavenly Sword did not enter the fray, and neither did Emperor Star's demigod Gu Qijue. Above the sky, the great emperor's fighting fiercely remained the main focus of the current battle. The great emperors and quasi-emperors from both sides were still evenly matched. For the people of the Tianheng domain and the Emperor Star, this would be an extremely arduous war. With every passing breath, large numbers of combat troops from both sides perished. As Gu Qijue surveyed the various battlefields, Jia Yinyu also came to his side. CEO Gu, are you still not making a move? Jia Yinyu asked. Looking at Gu Qijue with curiosity, Gu Qijue did not hide anything from Jia Yinyu. I'm waiting for the Tianheng domain to reveal its trump card. Jia Yinyu's beautiful eyes flickered. Other imperial rank peak experts, or demigods? Jia Yinyu was exceptionally intelligent. With just a few words from Gu Qijue, she thought of many things. In fact, there had always been numerous rumors that the Tianheng domain had a demigod old ancestor. However, these rumors were varied and came from diverse sources, so Jia Yinyu didn't know if the news was true or false. Gu Qijue nodded slightly, uttering two words, demigod. After speaking, he added, although it cannot be completely confirmed, it is highly probable that the Tianheng domain possesses a demigod. The weight of the word demigod was almost heavier than the heavens at this moment. Even Jia Yinyu, upon hearing these two words, couldn't help but show an unprecedented solemnity in her beautiful eyes. She thought for a moment, then said uncertainly, it is said that the Emperor Star also has a demigod old ancestor, but they haven't appeared for countless years. I wonder if this matter is true or false? Gu Qijue was not surprised that Jia Yinyu knew about this. As the CEO of Tian Yue Group, it was perfectly normal for her to see some confidential files. Since she asked, Gu Qijue naturally nodded slightly. Seeing Gu Qijue nod, Jia Yinyu let out a long sigh of relief in her heart, but she still couldn't help but say with some worry, does this mean that in the end, a demigod battle might even break out? Currently, the Emperor Star allied forces and the Tianheng domain allied forces were evenly matched. However, as time passed, the technological advantage of the Emperor Star allied forces would become increasingly apparent. After all, technological weapons do not require the user to provide energy for the weapons themselves. When the spiritual power of the Tianheng domain allied forces cultivators was mostly depleted, the Emperor Star's technological weapons, as long as they had energy replacements, could unleash terrifying power. However, if a demigod battle were to ultimately break out, the final outcome of this confrontation between the two sides would inevitably become unpredictable. Gu Qijue nodded. If nothing unexpected happens, there's a 90% chance that a demigod battle will break out between the two sides. 116. I kill the Emperor as easily as slaughtering a dog. The warring factions, currently engaged in battle, naturally had no idea what was about to happen. They couldn't concern themselves with what would happen next. They could only focus on the present. Whether it was the Emperor Star allied forces or the Tianheng domain allied forces, the immediate task was to survive while eliminating the enemy. Gu Qijue hadn't originally intended to intervene, but after seeing the battle between the two sides remain lukewarm and evenly matched, he decided to make a move. He decided to take appropriate action. His ultimate goal was still the Tianheng domain demigod old ancestor who could appear at any moment. However, as long as he wasn't fighting the Tianheng domain demigod old ancestor,